1-489-0201 or go to mypillow.com and use promo code LIBERTY. Order now and your entire order ships absolutely free.
The following is a message from the management of AM 560 The Answer and Salem Media of Illinois, LLC. We have become aware of comments made during the June 27th broadcast of The Unsafe Space, carried on AM 560 and hosted by Jenny McGuire and Tom McIntosh, that do not represent the values and mission of this radio station. In that broadcast, the hosts claimed that Rocio Cleveland had been disciplined by her employer for stalking. This claim is hereby formally retracted. Further, during the broadcast, the hosts used an inappropriate racial term to refer to Ms. Cleveland. On behalf of the station, we would like to apologize to Ms. Cleveland for the use of this term. The Unsafe Space is paid programming, and neither Ms. McGuire nor Mr. McIntosh are employees of AM 560 The Answer or Salem Media. Their views and opinions do not reflect those of the station or our parent company.
This is Seth Leibson for Townhall.com. A specter is taking over the Democratic Party and haunting America: Marxist and Islamist socialism. A new crop of Democratic Party candidates truly stand for and believe in the worst and most dangerous ideologies of the past. These candidates are winning and likely winning races for mayor, for Congress, and for Senate, from Los Angeles to Washington, D.C., from Colorado to Michigan. Even a cursory look at their platforms and speeches reveals admissions of support for Marx and Mao and Stalin, and Islamist organizations from Hamas to Hezbollah. This juggernaut of alien and anti-American ideology has a motor, and it has momentum. Even the Democratic frontrunner for president and the Democrats' former nominee Kamala Harris is in regular consultation with one of its leaders, seeking favor and advice from Zohran Mamdani. The toxic ideology from which millions died and fled from in Europe, Asia, Lebanon, and Iran cannot be replanted here. But just now, due to enfeeblement or sympathy, no force within the Democratic Party can stop it. The job must be left to us.
Hi, I'm Ken Mariotti, owner of Woodland Windows and Doors, a third-generation family-owned business since 1969. We know you're bombarded by choices when shopping for new windows or doors, so we're inviting you to experience the Woodland difference. For decades, we have been transforming living spaces with Marvin Windows, a fifth-generation family business. Marvin replacement windows have been known to increase the warmth of your cold rooms by 10 degrees. Think about that, 10 degrees warmer. When you welcome Woodland into your home, you will get a product expert to transform your living spaces, full-time, dedicated professional installers that you can trust in your home, along with the best products like Marvin. These are the reasons we're proud of our 5-star reviews and family legacy. No gimmicks, no pressure, and upfront pricing are why Woodland Windows and Doors is your trusted window and door expert in Chicagoland. Visit woodlandwindows.com to book your free in-home expert consultation. That's woodlandwindows.com, or stop by our showroom at the corner of Lake and Geary in Roselle.
Foundations of Freedom, a look at America's founding principles and the leaders who shaped our nation.
When Abraham Lincoln was elected president in 1860, America stood on the edge of collapse. Over the next 4 years, the Civil War claimed more than 700,000 lives and tested whether our republic could endure. As the war drew to a close, Lincoln looked beyond victory. He looked toward healing. In his second inaugural address, he challenged the nation. Let us strive on to bind up the nation's wounds, to achieve and cherish a just and lasting peace. Lincoln understood that preserving the greatest experiment in self-government required more than winning a war. It required the character to restore what had been broken. More than 160 years later, America still faces division. The question is not whether we'll disagree. The question is whether we still have the wisdom and the character to heal together.
Hello everyone, Gary Sinise here. I'm thrilled to share that me and the Lieutenant Dan Band are returning to Cantini Park in Wheaton, Illinois, where we will be rocking for our vets. Join us on July 11th for the West Suburban Foundation for Disabled Veterans America 250 concert, saluting our veterans and supporting your veteran community. Tickets are on sale now at WSFDV.org, and I can't wait to see you there. Let's rock for our vets.
Picture warm Gulf breezes, turquoise waters, white sand beaches. Now, add evenings of conversation with Salem Media's Mike Gallagher, Scott Jennings, Larry O'Connor, and Jennifer Horn. This November, sail from Fort Lauderdale to the Bahamas, Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, and Mexico on a 7-day journey built for those who love this country. Book your cabin today when you text the word cruise to 94878. Celebrate America's 250th anniversary the right way on the Gulf of America Cruise. Book your cabin now. Text the word cruise to 94878.
Hey Chicagoland, Jeff from Jeff Buys Your House. The military taught me that every mission is different. You assess the situation, listen to your team, then execute a plan built around what's needed. Same with helping families sell their homes. Whether it's an inherited house, a parent needing senior living, or life's just taking you in a new direction, we don't show up with a one-size-fits-all answer. We start by listening. What's your timeline? What are you worried about? What would make this easier? Then we build a solution around your needs. No repairs or cleanout are necessary. You pick the timeline that works for you, keep your memories, and we handle everything else. Since 2007, our veteran-led team has earned hundreds of 5-star reviews by doing exactly that, listening first, and treating every family with respect. If you're ready for a no-obligation conversation, call us at 630-895-9530. That's 630-895-9530 or jeffbuysyourhouse.com. That's jeffbuysyourhouse.com.
Fight or flight? In Illinois, you've got both options. You can stay and fight, engage in local races, work to change things. Or you can vote with your feet. At leavingil.com, we help you build a smart exit plan so you know where to go, when to go, and how to do it right. Take our quick exit readiness assessment. Go to leavingil.com. That's leavingil.com. Or call 224-800-6979.
What if the music stopped? If the familiar voices were silenced? If there were no breaking news updates? What if your companion and connection to your community came with a monthly fee? Don't worry, we're free local radio with you wherever you go, celebrating 100 years and looking forward to the next 100. We are broadcasters. Text radio to 52886 and let Congress know you depend on your local TV and radio stations. This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
I'm attorney Stephen Leahy. If you're a business owner with unfiled tax returns, tax season is not your friend. This is when the IRS turns up the heat. They match 1099s. They review payroll filings. They compare bank deposits. And when returns are missing, they don't send you a warning. They take action. Penalties stack up fast. Liens become public. Bank levies can drain your account. I see it every year. Good business owners who waited too long, not because they're crooks, but because they were overwhelmed. Let me be clear, hiding makes it worse. Action makes it fixable. I help business owners get compliant, file what's missing, and negotiate from a position of strength, not fear. Don't wait for the next certified letter. Don't wait for a levy. Go to fightbacknow.com and sign up for my daily email. I'll tell you exactly what to do next, step by step. Or call me right now at 312-664-6649. Act now before the IRS acts first.
Now, your official weather forecast.
Today will be mostly sunny with a high of 88. Tonight, expect partly cloudy skies with warm and humid conditions and a low of 72. Tomorrow, there will be intervals of clouds and sunshine with a couple of showers and a thunderstorm developing late morning. It'll remain humid with a high of 84. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
Portions of the following show may be pre-recorded.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. So the fallout from the latest allegations against SS cosplaying communist faux oyster farmer, could go on, Graham Plantner, the fallout continues as there's a concerted effort to push him out of the race with all of these pro forma public denouncements and calls for him to step away. But of course, he gets to make the last call, and that's turning out to be a bit problematic. The executive director of the Maine Neo-Bolshevik Party, I don't think they call themselves that yet, soon enough, Devin Murphy Anderson, she doesn't want to Biden up this process, but she's not getting cooperation from the Plattner camp.
Hi, everyone. I wanted to provide you all an update on the U.S. Senate race here in Maine. As you know, the Maine Democratic Party has been working around the clock to develop a process to replace our U.S. Senate nominee that is open, inclusive, transparent, and fair. The integrity of this process is just as important as the outcome, and we are committed to ensuring that Democrats across our state can have confidence in both. Unfortunately, Graham Plattner's team has repeatedly reached out to us in an attempt to put their thumb on the scale of what this process looks like. We have repeatedly reiterated to Graham Plattner's team that they have no role in determining our next Democratic nominee for the U.S. Senate, nor in determining what this process looks like. We have also reiterated that Graham Plattner must drop out of this race so that Democrats in Maine can focus on defeating Susan Collins this November.
Yeah.
We look forward to making this process public.
Just give it to Kamala
formally
already.
Withdraws from this race.
I mean, they do same-day registration. Can't they do same-day residency fulfillment for the purposes of a Senate race and just have somebody drop in? Like a Kamala, but that's not DSA enough, I suspect. I saw that Hassan Piker is promoting a Maine state legislator. I guess he was the head of the Senate, Troy Jackson, who also, like Hassan Piker and the rest of them, backed Graham Plattner all the way up until they could no longer. And there's also reports that he has some problems getting along nicely with women in Maine. So I don't know that ameliorates the situation from their perspective, their electoral interests, which is the only interests that are relevant here to them. So it'd be interesting to see how this plays out because, if Plattner withdraws, what are they going to say? We'll live to fight another day. We'll bring you back for another race. He just goes back to being some loser, pretend oyster farmer bartender dude and indulging his, rape and other fantasies on Reddit. So there's no play for him other than to stay. And what's the worst that could happen? He doesn't have the money to compete. He loses. I mean, Stephen King is sticking with him. You got people like MTG. Remember her? Some people used to think she was a conservative. Marjorie Taylor Greene and the Young Turks, Cenk Uygur and Anna Kasparian, propagating AIPAC Jewish conspiracy theories to rally to the defense of Graham Plattner. It was also anti-Semitism is a feature of his candidacy as well, so it seems fitting. So why not stick it out? And I also take judicial notice of this. He's got a bit of a campaign war chest right now because, we're not into the thick of it. And apparently he's paying his wife $5,000 a month from the campaign fund. So you want to keep that money flowing into the household. I mean, you can't go to dad for everything, mom and dad. Mom's your only client with the oyster farming business, and dad gave you the $200,000 to buy a house when you pretended it was a VA loan. Remember? So you want to keep the money flowing too, access to it. Maybe you need some for legal bills as well. Who knows how this plays out? John Fetterman is asking for apologies. This is a call that will go unheeded, to be sure. But, he's sort of the one. I mean, he's the one that's been calling Graham Plattner by his kick handle ever since that aspect of his dossier came to the fore. Trolling on a site known, I guess, to be a pedo playground. Is there any vice or barbaric behavior that Graham Plattner isn't actively participating in or hasn't as recent as 5 minutes ago?
Yeah, I mean, I refuse to overlook that. But honestly, I would really call Bernie Sanders to apologize for pushing this kind of predator more than anyone he helped him elect, and now apologize to the victims, especially the woman that she claimed that he raped her. So I don't know why you want to keep pushing these kinds of people. Maybe he should consider set a few out and stop pushing these kind of communists and people. And now people, like P. Hustle now, he is
P. Hustle,
credibly accused of rape. And that's fairly recent, too. That was only less than 5 years ago.
Yeah, well, I don't know. There's a lot of people, as I said, that I think if he sticks it out, may end up coming back to him, because what other choice do they have? It's so important to take back the Senate. It's so important to beat Susan Collins as the means to do that, that if Graham Plantner won't go, I guess we'll have to stay. This could circle back, and to his benefit, at least he has a puncher's chance, with the likes of the Stephen King electorate in Maine, or at least that segment of it. He's got nothing but ignominy ahead of him after that, especially if he just walks away at the behest of all those who propped him up as the neo-Bolshevik working class hero, the great working class hope, the great white man whisperer. Yeah, why not play it out, Plantner? P. Hustle.
The more you listen, the more you'll know. This is Chicago's Morning Answer. On AM 560, The Answer.
4th of July savings are happening now at the Home Depot with select appliances starting at $398. Plus, get free delivery on appliance purchases of $398 or more, no membership required. Upgrade your kitchen with a modern and sleek GE Profile refrigerator featuring hands-free autofill for the perfect pour every time. And make laundry day easier with 2-in-1 washer-dryer combo innovation that completes laundry in about 90 minutes. Shop top brand appliances now at the Home Depot. Offer valid June 17th to July 8th. U.S. only. See store online for details.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
ZipRecruiter.
AM 560, The
Answer. I liked the Babylon Bee headline yesterday. Rape allegations mar reputation of local Nazi. Not going well for them in Maine, the neo-Bolsheviks in Maine right now. We'll see what they can come up with. When we come back at 5:38, I do want to talk about the ongoing fallout with the Gray Lady over this Graham Plantner matter, too, the New York Times. That's an important media story. 5:38, now we check the headlines with Mike Scott.
5:33, Dan, we're watching on the northwest side. Irving Park area, Addison and Pulaski, Irving Park neighborhood. It's just been reopened from much earlier police activity. Buses are resuming normal service in both directions, and we hope to have an update on that developing story throughout the morning. One person is dead after a motorcycle crash in the north suburbs. It happened near Route 60 and St. Mary's Road in Mettawa, where a Mundelein man was pronounced dead at the scene. Federal prosecutor in Illinois facing additional calls for his resignation this week by public officials, this time in Chicago, who claim he was acting unfairly in applying federal immigration law. On Tuesday, Chicago Alderman Michael Rodriguez presented a resolution to the city council in which he questioned the U.S. Attorney's judgment.
The Northern District of Illinois has been in turmoil, from overcharging peaceful protesters almost from its first day to the mass exodus of legal talent from the 9th District's.
The measure holds no weight or authority. The measure advanced by Rodriguez. It was adopted by the council nearly unanimously, with only one vote against advancing it. President Trump says he thinks the ceasefire with Iran is over. Speaking overnight from Turkey, where he's attending this week's NATO summit, the president said he'd let U.S. negotiators continue talking about the matter, but said he didn't feel like wasting any more time. The first nuclear-powered commercial satellite is now in orbit. The Beta Voltaic Orbital High Reliability, or BOR satellite, was launched yesterday on a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket from Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. Meantime, back here at home, Mayor Brandon Johnson is warning City Hall about a possible budget shortfall this year.
Last December, we warned that some of those revenue sources would not perform as the caucus members or city council members that were more aligned with the interests of corporations. Now, halfway through the year, we are seeing those warnings come to fruition.
Meantime, as the list of heavy-hitting challengers running for Chicago mayor grows, yesterday the mayor continued to run from the issue of re-election. Former football player at Morgan Park High School and Eastern Illinois University is dead after a shooting in Harvey. Police say Keyshawn Lewis Hunt was shot and killed early Monday during a house party at his grandmother's home near 160th and Ashland. No arrests have been made. A Republican state lawmaker says Democrats need to begin engaging in a conversation about why people want to leave the state. Of the state's 102 counties, 33 have approved referendums that favor separating from Cook County. State Representative Brad Holbrook said the actual separation would be an uphill battle because Democrats will not let any resolutions move forward.
Billions of dollars have been transferred from citizens, from businesses into state budget or into the state treasury.
Governor J.B. Pritzker has referred to the prospect of counties leaving as a stunt. However, Pritzker himself has signed into law over 60 new taxes over 8 years. And heavy taxation is one reason why Do It Best Group says it's relocating its True Value Hardware headquarters from its longtime spot along Bryn Mawr Avenue on Chicago's north side to Do It Best Global headquarters in Fort Wayne, Indiana, creating, they say, greater opportunities for innovation, efficiency, stability, and growth in Indiana. Chicago sports. Cubs open their three-game set with the Orioles with a 5-2 win. White Sox got hit hard by the Red Sox 8-1 in their series opener. John Cass World Cup Soccer Tournament winners, Argentina and Switzerland. The news, a service of Mattress Firm. Trouble sleeping lately? Upgrade to the great sleep you deserve at Mattress Firm's July 4th sale. Choose from a selection of top brands and let their experts help you narrow it down. They make sleep easy. Chicago's Morning Answer continues in 2 minutes after a check of the AccuWeather forecast on AM 560.
Your home is a valuable asset, and you want to take care of your home. From roofs, siding, windows and doors to furnaces, flooring, landscaping, and much more. Listen to your go-to for all things home. It's Home Answers Radio with your host, Roger Piper. Get answers from industry experts so you can make informed decisions about home improvement. Listen every Saturday at noon for Home Answers right here on AM 560 The Answer. Sponsored in part by Access Home and Vehicle Mobility Solutions and by Steiner Homes.
John was an active man. He'd go for runs, walk the golf course, and always take the stairs instead of the elevator. But then bone-on-bone knee pain got in the way and affected his mobility. It became too painful to even go for walks. And when it seemed like John's only option was knee replacement surgery, a friend told him about the Joint Relief Institute and their affordable, non-surgical knee pain relief. John met with the Joint Relief Institute and discovered their lubricating gel treatment could rejuvenate his lost cartilage. Safe, effective, no surgery. Long story short, John is now back to being active without pain or medication.
There is an alternative to knee replacement surgery. Stop living in pain.
Call the Joint Relief Institute today, 708-315-6800, or visit jointreliefinstitute.com. Locations in Glenview, Oak Brook, and Orland Park. That's 708-315-6800. Medicare and most private insurance plans accepted. Reclaim your mobility with the Joint Relief Institute.
I'm attorney Stephen Leahy. If you're a business owner with unfiled tax returns, tax season is not your friend. This is when the IRS turns up the heat. They match 1099s. They review payroll filings. They compare bank deposits. And when returns are missing, they don't send you a warning. They take action. Penalties stack up fast. Liens become public. Bank levies can drain your account. I see it every year. Good business owners who waited too long, not because they're crooks, but because they were overwhelmed. Let me be clear, hiding makes it worse. Action makes it fixable. I help business owners get compliant, file what's missing, and negotiate from a position of strength, not fear. Don't wait for the next certified letter. Don't wait for a levy. Go to fightbacknow.com and sign up for my daily email. I'll tell you exactly what to do next, step by step. Or call me right now at 312-664-6649. Act now before the IRS acts first.
Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get the parts and service you need fast from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Now, your official weather forecast.
Today will be mostly sunny with a high of 88. Tonight, expect partly cloudy skies with warm and humid conditions and a low of 72. Tomorrow, there will be intervals of clouds and sunshine with a couple of showers and a thunderstorm developing from late morning onwards. It'll remain humid with a high of 84. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Look, first text from 574 asking why the accusers, the Graham Planner accusers, haven't sought to file a police report and seek charges, criminal charges against Graham Plattner, particularly Jenny Ransicott, who came forward the other day because she's making a rape allegation. And my answer is, from what I read, the statute of limitations on sexual abuse claims against adults, adult to adult, in Maine is 2 years. Varies a little bit state by state, but that's not unusual. So the allegation she made in terms of where he forced himself on her was from 2021, so 5 years ago. So the statute is run. So that's one of the issues. Wanted to get to New York Times, though. Look, I know the people have their intuition here. If you followed this playbook of the neo-Bolsheviks for long enough, you see what they're doing. You understand acutely their hypocrisy, their licentiousness, their moral equivocations, depending on their political interests. You understand all that. Nevertheless, it is good to remind people who all the bad actors are again and again and again, make this part of their permanent public record. And also to spread the word to those who are less enlightened because they don't listen to this show, that maybe they shouldn't trust everything they read in the New York Times, everything they consume on MSNBC, popular left podcasters like Young Turks, maybe The View. Maybe they shouldn't take that as, tablets that were brought down from on high. Michelle Goldberg offers a mea culpa, very much like the Jake Tapper mea culpa with respect to the Biden communication ops back before it was clear that he was not capable of making another run, back before the debate. Michelle Goldberg, New York Times. While I'm assigning blame for how this all, how we got to this place in Maine, while I'm assigning blame, I should leave out myself. Oh, she's so accountable. So reflective. Last October, when stories about Plattner's tattoo and Reddit posts first broke, I went to Maine to write about him. I tried to convey what I saw, a campaign that was electrifying angry Maine voters. But I deeply regret that, impressed by Plattner's political charisma. I'm still trying to understand this allegation that Graham Plattner has some political charisma. And it's sort of one of these things that just becomes accepted as conventional wisdom, which, of course, is conventionally wrong. Like Barack Obama is a great orator. Great orators have important things to say. Proper syntax doesn't make you a great orator or a deep intellect. Obama is neither. I would say the same thing about Mamdani. The charisma, he's so glib and facile with TikTok. Yeah. And then he gives an extended speech, not even that long of one, on over the Independence Day weekend, bitching about America and caricaturing Americans' attitude towards immigrants, among other caricatures. And you find this is positively a trite, superficial, flim-flam man. But back to Graham Plattner, he has got great political charisma. He does. He's like a dumpy, middle-aged, guy with all sorts of problems. I mean, if you, I don't know, I guess this was part of it. He looks like somebody that you might see in a Bass Pro Shop, but that was used to caricature people who are great Americans, who are outdoorsmen and veterans. But he's an outdoorsman. He's a veteran. He's this white guy, working class. He's a white guy. I'll give you that. That's about all I'll give you in terms of what you were trying to convey about him. But anyway, back to Michelle Goldberg. I deeply regret, impressed by Plattner's political charisma, I wrote that there was nothing like the edgelord caricature I encountered online, that he was nothing like that. If anything, he seems to be significantly worse. One person who tried to alert Democrats was Plattner's former political director, Genevieve McDonald. She quit when the first Plattner scandals emerged and has been increasingly outspoken against him. Progressive operatives made her seem like a vindictive person eager to curry favor with Maine's political establishment. In retrospect, she looks much more like someone who took a profound professional risk to do the right thing. I can't be the only one who regrets not taking her more seriously. Well, why didn't you? You're expressing regret, and I have to hold myself accountable for what I didn't do, what I didn't see. Yeah, I know, but why do you think it is, since you're in this reflective mode? You have any answer in terms of why you missed it? Why you made these mistakes, allegedly mistakes? Could it be those ideological lenses you're looking through every single day with every job, every decision you make as part of your job of being a comm shop staffer for the Neo-Bolshevik Party? Could that be it? Maybe that's a little vituperative on my part, that caricature, but how did you miss it? How did you miss that Biden wasn't the top of his game, as good as he's ever been, exacting and probing? How'd you miss it? How'd you miss all the rumors inside the Beltway, more than rumors, about Eric Swalwell? All that time that he was being platformed by all these outlets. How'd you miss it? As Jim Garrity over at National Review writes, if Graham Plattner fooled you about Michelle Goldberg, maybe you should find something to do with your life besides writing columns about politics. Yeah. Because he goes on, because the U.S. political landscape is full of creeps, cretins, con artists, crooks, and cads of every kind, and it always will be. If the media has any useful role to play in our system, it is to look beyond the spin and the campaign-crafted image and tell the world who these candidates really are, warts and all, so the electorate can make an informed choice. Yeah, well, that's not her bag, and that's not the bag of the D.C. press corps writ large, with few exceptions, and I mean few exceptions. And it's even worse than that. We're finding out with each passing moment how much worse it is. We talked yesterday about the soft catch and kill the New York Times did with their, alleged expose on Graham Plantner that was really a way to try and inoculate him from more serious allegations like the ones that Rassicot made, allegations of rape. So they profiled another former girlfriend, Lindsay Fifield, who had affiliations with Republican Party organizations, conservative organizations like the Heritage Foundation. That was where she had spent some of her professional life. And so they used those allegations that they diminished in terms of the profile they received in the story to get Fifield to talk about what occurred to her so that the leftist operatives could come out and say, she's a Republican. You can't believe her. That's partisan politics. Oh, and also all she alleged was that he grabbed her arm one time and it hurt and she felt a little uncomfortable. I mean, it's not like a Weinstein allegation or a Epstein allegation. And that's because they were trying to bury the Weinstein-esque and Epstein-esque allegation. And Fifield is responding. And I'm glad she is. I'd also like to crawl into the mind of these women and what exactly they found so appealing about Graham Plantner. Good grief. She writes, Lindsay Fifield on X, I actually understand why Democrat leaders didn't take our stories seriously when the Times reported them in June, but are taking them seriously now. It was by design. The line most shared from my piece was the claim that the Times, quote, could not corroborate, quote unquote, could not corroborate my story despite talking to two of my friends. And this I didn't know until Fifield posted it. I gave them the contact information for 5 friends. They called the 2 who I clarified would not know about the abuse, but would be able to affirm our relationship, timeline, events, etc. They simply didn't call the other 3. I also gave them the names of all my former roommates who remembered him stalking our row house, which was about 5 houses down from his, and waiting for me to return. I gave them screenshots of messages between these roommates and I discussing it. I gave them names of other men I dated who might have remembered him following us around the hill and showing up on my stoop after we walked home from dates to confront us. I gave them emails to my landlord urgently ending my lease and moving it to an apartment across town and diary entries talking about it, all time marked. I told them that during premarital counseling, I had spoken to my ex-fiance about the abuse because I had to explain to him why I reacted with such terror anytime he lost his temper. They said, oh, no, we don't need to bother him or my priest. Besides, I had written about it in my diary in detail, they reassured. As the weeks dragged on, I stopped trying to give them evidence because the amount I had already given them seemed to overwhelm them, and I thought it meant they clearly had more than enough to verify my every claim. My friends might not have known the details of the abuse, but they affirmed that, yes, I had told them that he was abusive long before he ran for the Senate. Besides, they assured me my part in their reporting would be small. I thought my details would only serve to affirm Jenny Rassicot and the other anonymous women. Jenny and I, having never met or spoken, both shared with these reporters terrifyingly similar details of intimate partner violence, coercive control, and cycles of abuse/love bombing. The third unnamed woman in the story did as well. But tell me again how they, quote, could not corroborate, unquote. It's really dastardly. And these are the believe all women. These are the great third wave feminists populating the newsrooms in places like the New York Times. You really feel like they've got your back? Well, they have your back if you're a fellow traveler politically. And they're going to stick it in your back if you're not. We clear? 312-642-5600, alphawealthgroup.com. Call and text line. Bill, Northwest Side.
Yeah, people like Michelle Goldberg, she's not interested in the truth. She's interested in the narrative, repeating the party line. But that's how she keeps her job at the New York Times. She knows where her bread is buttered, and she's going to say what she needs to say to keep her job.
Well,
that's the game.
Yeah, thanks for the couple. Right. I mean, the fellow travelers, I mean, it's not just at the columnist or reporter level. Of course, it's at the editorial level. It's at the managing editor level. It's all the way up to the publisher level at these outlets. That's right. That's why Mark Halperin called it the Gang of 500. It's up and down the power structure of these organizations. They operate like a political party because they're part of one. Mike in Deerfield.
Hey, Dan, thanks for taking my call. I find it really ironic for the last 5 to 10 years, the media has tried to define anything masculine. I mean, wanting to work out, liking sports, being hetero, as toxic masculinity.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Everything was toxic. I mean, and they're basically trying to feminize men is what they've been trying to do. And all of a sudden, they latch on to what they perceive to be as this all-American guy because he's got a goatee and a deep voice, and he was in the military for a while. And meanwhile, he is toxic. It's not toxic masculinity. He's just a toxic person. Thanks for taking my call.
Thanks for the call, Mike. And how was he handled after the New York Times story? After all, all this stuff, like if we only knew, it's sort of the same thing as the Biden comparison, or Swalwell to a lesser extent, because it wasn't so much in the public domain, but it was known among those on the inside. Well, if only we had known. Yet the way they handled everything up until the Jenny Rassicot allegations the other day was like Obama soy boy podcaster John Favreau when he had Plattner on his podcast. Listen to this probing interrogation of Graham Plattner. Hey, how's it going?
Have you had conversations with people who are skeptical about all the tattoo stuff or any of the old Reddit posts or any of that?
Oh yeah, I mean,
how do those go?
They go great. I mean, because it's because I explain it, and frankly, most people are like, that all sounds eminently reasonable.
It's good enough for John Favreau, who, again, up until he joined the chorus of calls for Graham Plattner to step aside. Graham Plattner's a genuinely decent man. Oh, he just reeks of decency. Every story, he just gets more and more decent, I must say. Roger in DeKalb.
Hey, Dan. Great topic. So this they've been talking about, they picked this guy because that's what they're looking for, a real man. This is what that elitist, snobby class think real men in America are, and they are not like this guy. And believe me, I worked in construction, so I worked with all kinds of people, union non-people, and these guys existed. Usually the older men who were pro-union were just because of their jobs, and you could never talk them off that hill, even to this day, no matter what things are like. But guys his age and younger that took that attitude, there's a real nihilism and narcissism that goes along with it. These guys have no morals, no ethos. So, of course, anything goes for them. And when they want to get in politics, and, of course, as what else? As an elite communist, that's perfect for them. It's really sad how this is gone. And that guy that was doing the vetting, can you imagine that guy, Mr. talks like he's constipated, vetting anybody to be a man? That guy doesn't know what a man is. Yeah,
he's still going through puberty. Yeah, thanks for the call, Roger. I know. Daniel Moraff. Yeah, we played him yesterday. When it's time to change, you got to rearrange who you are and what you want to be. The whole men without chest thing. That's what we're talking about here. All that's what Graham Plattner is. Just appetites. And a lot of disgusting appetites, but appetites. There's nothing there. And a man without a chest, to borrow from C.S. Lewis, is, not a man. Not in the sense that we're talking about it. Tom, Blue Island.
Hey, Dan, I just wanted to respond to Mike real quickly. They're not trying to feminize all men. They're just trying to feminize their enemies. Scumbags like this Plattner guy, it's okay for him to be like a longshoreman and masculine and everything because he has the right politics.
Thanks for the call, Tom. George, Naperville.
Yes, we have to remember the words of one of our great presidents, President Bush. Shame on me. We don't get fooled again.
That's a terrible W impersonation, George, but I appreciate the effort. All right, coming up at 6:06, we'll turn our attention again sort of bubbled back up to the surface, the problem with illegal immigrants and illicit CDL licenses and the death that results. Tom Homan is on the job. Ali G is not, and he should be, because one of the high-profile stories right now is about what the Chicago Press Corps is calling a Palatine man. A Palatine man with a CDL. That's 6:06. It's now 6 o'clock on AM 560 WIND.
This is a Fox News alert. President Trump says the ceasefire with Iran is over. I'm Chris Foster. The president of the NATO summit in Turkey says negotiations can continue, but he thinks they're a waste of time, with Iran resuming strikes on commercial ships in the Strait of Hormuz.
These are evil, sick people, and we have to rid their cancer. Their cancer. And you know what you do? You got to cut out cancer early. Man, that's the way I feel.
Fox's Mark Meredith in Ankara.
Says those strikes were more than necessary after he accused Iran of launching attacks on commercial vessels simply trying to get through the Strait of Hormuz. U.S. Central Command says it attacked 80 targets throughout Iran, including command and control structures, as well as targeting Iranian forces operating in small ships near the Strait of Hormuz. Overnight, Iran launched their own counterstrikes at targets in Kuwait and Bahrain. Now the president says he believes the ceasefire with Iran is no longer in place.
Oil prices are up about 6% today. The son of a man shot and killed by an Immigration and Customs Enforcement agent in Houston says his father came to the U.S. nearly 35 years ago working in construction and did not deserve this.
The Department of Homeland Security says ICE officers were trying to arrest Lorenzo Salgado Araujo, a Mexican national it says was in the U.S. illegally when he allegedly rammed his car into an ICE enforcement vehicle and attempted to run over an agent. The agency goes on to explain the ICE officer fired his weapon in self-defense, striking the driver, who was taken to the hospital but died from his injuries. The FBI's Houston field office is investigating. There have been at least 6 deadly shootings by federal officers since the Trump administration's immigration enforcement crackdown began. Kristen Goodwin, Fox News.
Apple announces an expansion of its partnership with chipmaker Broadcom that'll lead, it says, to the production of more than 15 billion U.S.-made computer chips and includes an expansion of Broadcom's facility in Fort Collins, Colorado. The expansion said to be worth about $30 billion, extending it through 2031. America's listening to Fox News.
69 degrees in Chicago. Our time is 6:02 on AM 560, The Answer. In our QC Kinetics newsroom, federal prosecutor in Illinois facing additional calls for his resignation by public officials, this time here in Chicago. On Tuesday, Chicago Alderman Michael Rodriguez presented a resolution to a city council committee in which he calls into question the U.S. Attorney for the Northern District's judgment and ability to serve impartially.
In turmoil, from overcharging peaceful protesters almost from his first day to the mass exodus of legal talent from the 9th District's.
The measure also holds no weight or authority. It was adopted by the council near unanimously, only one vote voting against advancing it. Meantime, at City Hall, Mayor Brandon Johnson is warning about a possible budget shortfall.
Last December, we warned that some of those revenue sources would not perform as the caucus members or city council members that were more aligned with the interests of corporations. And now, halfway through the year, we are seeing those warnings come to fruition.
Mayor says a mid-year budget report shows alternative revenues, part of the 2026 alternative budget, have fallen more than $130 million. 2 people are in custody after a deadly shooting in Mundelein. Authorities say Mundelein police were called out yesterday to an apartment in the 500 block of Deepwoods Drive. Officers found a man and woman with gunshot wounds. The man died, the woman hospitalized with non-life-threatening injuries. Health officials are still looking for the source behind a parasitic illness causing severe symptoms. Area Dr. Linwood Jones.
I always tell people when they're out picking berries and this type of thing, don't eat the berries then. Take them home and wash them.
Because the CD says cyclosporiasis, type of food poisoning caused by a parasite, is raging through the Midwest. Illinois is among the states reporting the most cases. Outbreaks of cyclosporiasis are typically traced back to prepackaged foods and fresh produce like raspberries. So far, the CDC or FDA have not identified the source of the outbreak. Cubs beat the Orioles 5-2. White Sox crushed by the Red Sox 8-1. The news, a service of the AM 560 Advantage, where membership has its privileges. Join today, 560theanswer.com/join. A check of the roads in 2 minutes on AM 560.
Your home is a valuable asset, and you want to take care of your home. From roofs, siding, windows and doors to furnaces, flooring, landscaping, and much more. Listen to your go-to for all things home. It's Home Answers Radio with your host, Roger Piper. Get answers from industry experts so you can make informed decisions about home improvement. Listen every Saturday at noon for Home Answers right here on AM 560 The Answer. Sponsored in part by Level 10 Coatings and by American Beam and Steel. WIND, Chicago. Sign up for the AM 560 Answer Advantage to get early alerts on event ticket sales, special discounts, and contest opportunities. Sign up today at 560theanswer.com/advantage.
Do you owe $10,000 or more to the IRS like Mark?
I've been doing home remodeling for 30 plus years, but the economy crashed. I wound up losing my home, losing my job, and on top of that, owing the IRS a ton of money. I owed the IRS $114,000. It really, truly was the worst part of my life.
Then Mark found Tax Relief Advocates.
On news radio, I heard about TRA, and I thought, what's the worst that could happen? So I picked up the phone and I called them. When it was all said and done, TRA settled my $114,000 debt for $100, and I'm telling you, I was ecstatic. Could not believe it. Would recommend TRA to anyone.
If you owe 10 or even hundreds of thousands of dollars to the IRS, don't lose hope. Do what Mark did and call TRA for a consultation.
But TRA did. They gave me a second chance, and I'm forever grateful.
Visit TRA.com or call 800-575-8924. 800-575-8924. That's 800-575-8924.
Of all the wireless companies in America, only one has 5 stars in every category from Consumer Reports, and that company is Pure Talk. Coverage, support, value, data. 5 stars across the board. Plus, no service contracts and no cancellation fees. Just phenomenal U.S. customer service on a crazy fast 5G network. Dial pound 250, say micro, and switch to a 5-star American wireless company that won't let you down. Pure Talk.
Born on America's darkest day, September 11th, 2001, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation, they have been helping American heroes ever since. Heroes like U.S. Army Sergeant William Bernard McKenna, exposed to burn pits. McKenna later died from T-cell lymphoma, leaving his wife, Dina, and 2 daughters. Tunnel to Towers honored Sergeant McKenna. They paid off the family's mortgage in honor of all of his sacrifice. Donate $11 a month. If you have a car to donate, if you have land to donate, go to their website, the letter T, the number 2, the letter T.org today.
One of the 5 actually looked at us and said, if you name it Penny Mustard, I won't work here anymore.
I'm not wearing a coat that says that. I will not wear a hat that says that. Today, that person wears a coat and a hat, and proud to, I think.
Yes, very proud to.
Ben and Arvid Huth, brothers and owners of Penny Mustard Furnishings.
Our younger brother, Maynard, told us that name is stupid.
Did he?
Yes.
A lot of other people said that too.
And 6 months later, he told me that name was ingenious. That was the best name you could have ever come up with. Just took a little while for some people to get over the hump of appreciating it.
We got hate mail after changing the name to Penny Mustard. Yeah. There was so many people thought it was the dumbest thing ever.
Yeah.
But we knew immediately it was the right name, and it is the right name. It fits. It still fits. It always fit. It was unique. It had meaning. It had meaning to both of us.
Yeah.
It's unforgettable. It's a little weird.
See more at pennymustard.com.
But weird things are easy to remember.
Yeah.
Gain insight into building strong marriages and raising godly children with Focus on the Family with Jim Daly each weekday at 11:30 a.m. on our sister station, AM 1160. Hope for your life.
.608. Let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. Slow traffic showing up on the Stevenson, all due to an earlier accident outbound between Cicero and Central. There are delays this morning as you begin your trip on the Ryan inbound. We're seeing brake lead show up 87th all the way up to 83rd. Delays as you travel on the west side of Chicago. Construction type delays, all leading to the Windy City smoke out on Warren Boulevard from Damon to Wood. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. Your official Chicago weather forecast in the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center.
Today will be mostly sunny with a high of 88. Tonight, expect partly cloudy skies with warm and humid conditions and a low of 72. Tomorrow, there will be intervals of clouds and sunshine with a couple of showers and a thunderstorm developing from late morning onwards. It'll remain humid with a high of 84. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. It was overshadowed by, well, certainly President Trump's remarks, but on the left by Mamdani, the commies speech in New York City. But Bill Clinton issued a statement on the occasion of America's 250th birthday. Did you catch that? In case you thought that there was going to be, as Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro seemed to intimate's probably a strong word. I think he was hoping against hope. There's going to be some sort of 1992 moment where there was going to be a shift towards a more centrist Democrat Party as opposed to the neo-Bolshevik party that it's become. And we have to figure out what we believe. We're going to hash it out. Really? Well, it's interesting. You may want to check with the beneficiary of that DLC moment back 34 years ago, because he's left that playing field. He's folding in, as is the entire party. So you see this all over the place. I mean, and it's particularly pronounced in the Midwest. Common sense, Midwest nice, right. And the leading candidate for governor in Wisconsin, this legislator, Francesca Hong, abolish ICE, police exist to uphold white supremacy. Those are her positions. She's running for governor of Wisconsin. I mean, I know it's the land of La Follette progressivism, but that's what you're getting from candidates like Hong is one step or two down the path towards governance that reflects their totalitarian tendencies. That's what we're really talking about. These are totalitarians. They're not anarchists. They're totalitarians. Much worse than anarchists. It's not just about destroying institutions. It's turning institutions against the American people. Oppressing. So if you thought the Bill Clinton would, or those like him would lead some renaissance, or some return to the politics of the DLC era that gave birth to Clinton, I have some bad news. In his 250 letter, or statement, the people in charge have unleashed masked agents on American communities to seize people from their homes, workplaces, and the street. That's how he characterizes immigration law enforcement, obviously. The people in charge have unleashed masked agents on American communities to seize people, not people here illegally, who've committed crimes, in addition to being here illegally. There's people. No just cause is the inference. People in charge have unleashed masked agents on American communities to seize people from their homes, workplaces, and the street. This from a guy who oversaw Ruby Ridge and Waco and Elian Gonzalez. I mean, pay no attention to the Clinton record. That's a very different Clinton than the one who addressed the nation in his State of the Union address in '95, saying this about illegal immigration.
All Americans, not only in the states most heavily affected, but in every place in this country, are rightly disturbed by the large numbers of illegal aliens entering our country. The jobs they hold might otherwise be held by citizens or legal immigrants. The public service they use impose burdens on our taxpayers. That's why our administration has moved aggressively to secure our borders more, by hiring a record number of new border guards, by deporting twice as many criminal aliens as ever before.
Are those masked agents?
By cracking down on illegal hiring, by barring welfare benefits to illegal aliens. In the budget I will present to you, we will try to do more to speed the deportation of illegal aliens who are arrested for crimes, to better identify illegal aliens in the workplace, as recommended by the commission headed by former Congresswoman Barbara Jordan. We are a nation of immigrants, but we are also a nation of laws. It is wrong and ultimately self-defeating for a nation of immigrants to permit the kind of abuse of our immigration laws we have seen in recent years, and we must do more.
Who in that party is saying anything approaching that today? Maybe the exception of John Fetterman, who is probably going to be primaried out of his party when he's up, unless he jumps first. So, this, moderate element, some say wing. It's not a wing. What, 10 congresswomen in swing districts, in the interest of their own sense of political survival, say, I'm not on board with Mamdani and crew. You think that's a fight? I don't think so. Against those who are winning elections, winning primaries and winning elections, particularly in the safe seats where you get the leadership of your party because they're insulated from competition and thus accountability in so many respects. Abdul El-Sayed in Michigan, leading candidate to be a United States senator, if Mike Rogers can sidetrack him, can sidetrack him. And I think he can, actually, because he's another abolish ICE guy, defund the police. Now he's saying he didn't say those things, but of course it's all on the record. I just told you the leading candidate for governor in Wisconsin to replace Tony Evers, Francesca Hong, where she's coming from. The DSA just endorsed Cori Bush to trying to bring security detail Spice of the Socialist Spice Girls back to representation of St. Louis. So where's it coming from? This hashing out what the party believes that Josh Shapiro would have us believe? It's not happening. It is not happening. And the result is, mayhem and death. It will be. It is, even with the efforts that are being made right now by the Trump administration, because, of course, you don't have, not only do you not have blue state cooperation, you have open hostility from blue states. Respond to law enforcement with ever-increasing lawlessness. They won't even comply or work with the Department of Transportation to rescind the licenses of illegal immigrants who illicitly obtain CDL licenses and are a menace on America's roads. Some 28,000 CDL licenses have been rescinded, according to immigration authorities, but they don't even know what percentage of CDL licenses that represents. Because, again, of the lack of cooperation they get from states named California, Illinois, New York. Tom Homan with Dana Perino on Fox on the issue.
The number of illegal commercial driver's license revoked as of May 1st was over 28,000, which seems significant. But out of how many? What do you know what the denominator is?
That's a work in progress because, again, getting information from, some of the sanctuary states is a struggle. And Sean Duffy's suing, DOJ's suing, so we're trying to get all this information we can. We got a lot of it. We got a lot of people we're looking for. We're actually, some states we're actually working way stations with the troopers trying to get these people as they're coming through. So it's a work in progress. President Trump's serious about this. ICE is out there with the local law enforcement and state law enforcement, wherever they will allow us to work with them, to ID these people and take them off the street.
Well, I mean, talking about way stations, there's an organization called American Truckers United that is trying to do some policing here. And a representative of that organization was at the West Memphis way station in Arkansas. He posted a video online, about 9 minutes, of watching the action at this way station. This just this one way station, and here's how that went.
There's a California plate up there. He got the green light. Even though California is known for issuing non-domicile CDLs to illegal aliens, they get the green lights in the scale houses, boys. California carrier, green light. California plates. Got the green light. So I'm here at the Arkansas Interstate 40 westbound way station as you come in across the Mississippi River. Notice there are no CBP officers. There are no ICE agents.
They followed up, none targeted, these truck drivers, none intercepted. This is American Truckers United, their statement. We must demand aggressive interior enforcement, especially against states issuing non-domicile CDLs to illegal aliens, California, New York, Illinois, and especially after the death of that Pennsylvania state trooper. Enough is enough. The purpose of the video is to assert that trucks from these states should be inspected. The legal status of all trucks and drivers in the video are unknown. But, he goes through, he sees Mexican plate on one of the trucks. He sees just a paper temp license, no plates, and there's no law enforcement presence to do the inspections. So there's not much in the way of inspections that are done. The results, as we've talked about before, but there are unfortunately new individuals that we have to add to the body count, including a 21-year-old goalie for the University of Massachusetts Lowell men's soccer team, Tobias Forsyth, died in a car crash on Sunday. He was struck by a 42-year-old Uzbeki national who didn't speak English. The Department of Transportation confirming the truck driver who killed Tobias Forsyth failed an English proficiency test. Couldn't understand officers when they arrived at the scene of the crash. He was granted a CDL license in Ohio. And then there's the Palatine man. I mean, that's how he's being reported. Palatine man charged in hit-and-run crash that killed man changing tire. Suburban Chicago man in I-80 hit-and-run that killed driver changing tires. Suburban Chicago man, Palatine man. And who is he actually? 29-year-old Palatine man has been charged with reckless homicide after a 23-year-old man was killed while changing a tire in the south suburbs. Kuljit Singh Kang has also been charged with leaving the scene of a fatal crash in the hit-and-run on I-80 in Lansing. Sebastian Stone is the 23-year-old who was killed at the scene. And Kuljit Kang the one who hit him. Kuljit Kang is an Indian national. I've seen this before. And nothing in particular with the country. It's just the larger problem. This was Mr. Kang celebrating obtaining his CDL license, graduating from trucking school.
ਮੇਰਾ ਨਾਮ ਕੁਲਜੀਤ ਸਿੰਘ ਕੰਗ ਅੱਜ ਆਪਣਾ ਮੈਂ CDL ਲਾਇਸੈਂਸ ਦਾ ਟੈਸਟ ਪਾਸ ਕਰ ਲਿਆ ਹਾਕ ਟਰੱਕ ਡਰਾਈਵਿੰਗ ਸਕੂਲ ਤੋਂ 1 ਮਹੀਨੇ ਚ ਮੈਂ ਲਾਇਸੈਂਸ ਲੈ ਲਿਆ ਬਹੁਤ ਵਧੀਆ ਟ੍ਰੇਨ ਕਰਦੇ ਬਹੁਤ ਵਧੀਆ ਸਮਝਾਉਂਦੇ ਆ ਜੇ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੇ ਵੀ ਲੈਣਾ ਹੋਵੇ ਲਾਇਸੈਂਸ
No, speak of the English. Brian in Wheatfield, Indiana.
Hey, good morning, Dan. Thanks for taking my call. I drive a truck. I'm out here all day long, and I watch. I could probably pick out 10, 15 guys a day who are either not in compliance or could be that. But I don't think law enforcement wants to deal with the problem. They pull this guy over, find out he's illegal or whatever. Now they got to call ICE. They got they pick out the clean, shiny trucks. Hey, got this or that. Send you on your way. Everybody that drives on these roads sees it. I don't think law enforcement wants to deal with it.
Well, especially if you're in a sanctuary state, I suppose. Do you know this school? He got his. There's a video posted about this. He graduated from the Hawk truck driving school. It's got an 847 area code. He's standing in front of a Hawk driving school, truck driving school, celebrating and with holding up his CDL license certificate, celebrating it in his native tongue because he doesn't speak English. Mm-hmm. You're not familiar with it?
Yeah, I'm not familiar with it, but I've taken guys to get their CDLs, and I've watched some of these truck driving schools, and what they do is they'll teach them how to pass the test, and they say that they'll learn how to drive the truck when they are on the road. And I've seen it and heard it, and it's sad. Very sad.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for the call, Brian. According to Libs of TikTok, Indian National renewed a CDL less than 2 months ago. Hawk Truck Driving School is what I mentioned. And there's reporting that he appeared to be driving while looking at his phone. He's here on a green card, is Mr. Kang. And obviously, if he's convicted of the crimes for which he's charged, then the green card would be revoked and he would be deported after serving his time. The Department of Transportation says they're investigating. You know who's not investigating? Your Secretary of State, Ali Giannoulias. Remember him? Ali G, the Mimbo, failed mob banker, about to announce his run for Chicago mayor. Here's what Ali G is doing, holding masturbatory press conferences, congratulating himself for invented awards like procurement excellence.
This is about more than just paperwork. It's about protecting taxpayer dollars. Procurement makes sure that taxpayer dollars are spent wisely. That's why I'm especially proud today to announce that we've earned the Achievement of Excellence in Procurement Award from the National Procurement Institute.
Oh my gosh, the National Procurement Institute. That is an august body. Talk about the Good Housekeeping seal. I'm sorry. Pardon me. I'm talking about road safety and illicit CDL licenses. I didn't know you were being feted by the Procurement Institute of blah, 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 whatever. So impressive. I can see why people are lining up behind Ali G. Boy, that's what we need. If we just get a little bit tighter on procurement in the state of Illinois and the city of Chicago, then everything sort of falls into place. Could these people be more unserious? And the people I'm talking about, the electorate. Nick, Northwest Side.
Yeah. Thank you, Dan. It's always so nice to start the day with you. You don't know how nice it feels.
I start the day with me every day. I do, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, 5 days a week. Yeah. When you're on. I've been retired 14 years. I've spoken about this on your show years and years ago back then, that some of these people coming in, I drove a semi-truck the last 19 years of my truck driving career. And I said way back then, including on your show, that some of these people coming in, their understanding of, that not just the driving, I could see how poorly some of them are driving, but just dealing with other truck drivers, dealing with people on the road, you got to understand that people don't understand the limitations. Like in a city, I see it all the time with a 53-foot trailer, sleeper tractor. You got 65 feet. Some of the drivers can't make a turn without doing what looks like stupid things, blocking out people here and squeezing people there. But I said then that you're going to have people flipping these trucks over. And it took a few weeks, and it started happening for about 2 years. Every week there's like a truck flipped over and accidents happening, and that's because nobody was doing what should have been done. It was to more carefully screen these people, just like the people coming in our country. So many kept coming in, all the crime, and people end up on welfare years and years later, having expensive cars, getting the EBT card for food. This whole country is getting out of control with these Democrats, and I'm hoping that the next election, enough people would vote and for the Democrats, not for them, for getting the Democrats out, for getting in the Republicans, because otherwise, I really see us declining quickly after that.
Thanks for the call, Nick. Appreciate it. Well, the CDL issue, really. It took down a governor, George Ryan, and it should have. Most people listening are old enough to remember the Willis family. And that was corruption in the Secretary of State's office, selling CDL licenses. This is even more profligate in this sanctuary state. What do you have to say to that 23-year-old young man, his family? What are we doing? By the way, since I mentioned him, the Pennsylvania State Trooper, he was inspecting a semi-truck on the side of the road in Pennsylvania Wednesday when he was struck by a 33-year-old who veered off the road and crashed into the truck he was inspecting. The 33-year-old has been charged with homicide by vehicle, involuntary manslaughter, other charges. He's a Haitian illegal alien who first flew into the United States in 2024 via the Biden administration's CHNV migrant flights mass parole program. Colombia, Honduras, Nicaragua, Venezuela. Colombia, Haiti, Nicaragua, Venezuela. He flew into Fort Lauderdale Hollywood Airport on July 2nd of 2024, where he was admitted to the U.S. by CBP as a parolee via the Biden program. On June of last year, the Trump administration issued him a notice of termination of parole, but he remained. Tony in Downers Grove.
Hey, Dan, by the way, is Name Another Chest, was that your college band when you had your shirts off? I'm just checking.
Is what was?
No, Name Another Chest. You were talking about Name Another Chest.
I was talking about Men Without Chests, I think.
Oh, Men Without Chests.
Men Without Chests, yes. That was my Men Without Hats cover band we used to kill with Safety Dance. Yeah.
So, Dan, this is not just a problem with CDL licenses. This is a problem overall. But since we apparently have a immigration policy that is, as long as they're here contributing, it doesn't matter. They're good. They can stay. We'll have this problem. And, we have a tripod here. We have a tripod. We have people that don't want to assimilate. This is illegal immigrants. This is people that have been here a while who may be legal. And we have a subgroup of angry Black Americans who side with all this garbage, as well as guilty white people who think that they're repenting of sins of the past because they're going to be forgiven for something they didn't have anything to do with. And it's a problem, and it's going to continue to be a problem. You mentioned the other day the candidate from Michigan. I can't pronounce his name.
Sayed.
People.
Sayed.
People years ago were saying, Sharia law. Oh, what are you, crazy? No, it's coming. So beware. We better wake up.
Thanks for the call, Tony. Yeah, By the way, the Haitian who killed that Pennsylvania state trooper, I should close the loop on that, issued a CDL in this country legally. His temporary protected status has been revoked last year. Issued a CDL by the state of Massachusetts, another sanctuary state. Lori Healy and Michelle Wu, the Thelma and Louise of the Northeast. Text from 847, Ali G had to be told what procurement meant before recording that spot, announcing his procurement award. Yeah. Well, he doesn't have time to read and learn new words. I mean, he's too busy having his a-hole whitened at East Bank Club, He's got to stay pretty. Turn it over to Mike Scott for the headlines.
6:34 in Chicago, 70 degrees. Sunshine for now. Warm and humid later today. Iran says it has launched missile and drone attacks on U.S. military sites in Kuwait and Bahrain in retaliation for recent American strikes. President Trump says he's done negotiating with Iran.
They're liars. They're cheats. They're sick people. They've hurt their people. They killed 54,000 people as of now that were protesting. When people say, how come they haven't taken over? They can't take over because they're dead.
Attacks have repeatedly threatened the shaky ceasefire in the Middle East. Calls continue to grow for Maine U.S. Senate candidate Graham Plattner to drop out of the race in Maine after a sexual assault allegation and a report by Politico. A woman who dated Plattner accused him of forcing her to have sex almost 5 years ago despite repeated objections. Louisiana Senator John Kennedy questions those who defended him until this point.
I tell you who saw it coming. Every American who was paying attention and who has an IQ above a toaster knew that this guy's motherboard was fried.
Former logger and Maine Senate President Troy Jackson and a former congressional candidate, Paige Loud, have filed paperwork to succeed Plattner's place to unseat incumbent Senator Susan Collins. It's a huge wildfire in Southern California, 94,000 acres. An update from overnight says the Aspen Acres fires continues to spread, 16% containment. 2 are in custody after a deadly shooting in Mundelein, where police say they were called out yesterday to an apartment in the 500 block of Deepwoods Drive. Officers found a man and woman with gunshot wounds. The man died. Illinois State Police later located the suspect's vehicle on an interstate near the Indiana border and took a man and woman into custody. And a lightning strike is to blame for the death of an 8-year-old girl in LaSalle County. The child was struck in the backyard of her home in Serena last Friday, pronounced dead later at a nearby hospital. Chicago sports, Cubs over the Orioles 5-2. Red Sox beat the White Sox 8-1. The news, a service of Mattress Firm. Trouble sleeping lately? Upgrade to the great sleep you deserve at Mattress Firm's July 4th sale. They make sleep easy. A check of the roads in 2 minutes on AM 560.
Hugh Hewitt explains why Iran cannot get a nuke.
If Khomeini 2.0 and Vahidi get their hands on any nuclear weapon, they will use it against Israel. And they will, if they're going down in nuclear fire, they're going to take down everyone who helped Iran along the way. They're not going to get a nuclear weapon on Donald Trump's watch or on Benjamin Netanyahu's watch.
The Hugh Hewitt Show. Afternoons at 2, right before Alex Marlowe at 3 on AM 560. The Answer.
Each morning, the newsmakers and the newsbreakers shaping today's conversation are heard on the AlphaWealthGroup.com answer line on Chicago's Morning Answer. When you need answers about what's happening in your world, you turn to AM 560 The Answer. And when you need answers about how to prepare for and protect your retirement, you turn to the Alpha Wealth Group, now the proud sponsor of the AM 560 Answer line. Right here on Chicago's source for news, opinion, and insight. AM 560 The Answer.
Picture warm Gulf breezes, turquoise waters, white sand beaches. Now, at Evenings of Conversation with Salem Media's Mike Gallagher, Scott Jennings, Larry O'Connor, and Jennifer Horn. This November, sail from Fort Lauderdale to the Bahamas, Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, and Mexico on a 7-day journey built for those who love this country. Book your cabin today when you text the word cruise to 94878. Celebrate America's 250th anniversary the right way on the Gulf of America Cruise. Book your cabin now. Text the word cruise to 94878.
Welcome back to Ask Hassleus. I'm Weston. What's your question?
This is Captain Baker from the Sheriff's Office.
Hello, officer.
We have a report of missing employees at Hassleus Mattress.
That's right.
You're confessing?
Yes, I'm confessing that Hassleus Mattress showrooms are employee-free.
Come again?
Shop for Beauty Rest and Sealy Posturepedic without commission-crazy salespeople breathing down your neck.
Sounds suspicious.
That's how we keep our prices way low.
How low?
Others sell a Beauty Sleep by Beauty Rest Queen Elm Cove A mattress for $1,599. But Hassleus has it for just $794. Plus, similar savings on Sealy Posturepedic and more.
That's criminally low.
And through Monday, trade in your old mattress and take $248 off a queen and $348 off a king.
You wouldn't lie to a cop, would you?
Free next day delivery, too.
Dispatch, I need a police escort for a Hassleus Mattress delivery truck to my house.
Open 9 to 9. Find an employee-free showroom near you or shop online at Hassleus.com.
At Signature Bank, going the distance for business banking customers is what we do every day. We understand that business owners have a strategic mission, a drive to succeed, a plan for growth, and don't have time to wait for a bank to respond. With Signature Bank, you not only have a banking partner that has roots right here in Chicago, but our decisions are made locally too. Signature Bank knows that when you have a question or problem about your business, you want answers. You need someone who will pick up the phone or respond to your text. You need someone who is always there for you. That's Signature Bank. We are a team that wants to get to know you and your business. Want to be Signature Bank's next success story? Give us a call today at 773-467-5630 or visit us online at signaturebank.bank. Member FDIC Equal Housing Lender.
Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get the parts and service you need fast from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
641 Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. Accident Grays Lake, Belvedere, and US 45. Accident in Hoffman Estates, Algonquin Road and Huntington Boulevard. Stop and go on the Bishop Ford inbound Cottage Grove into the Dan Ryan merge. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. But first, a check of the AM 560 forecast in the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center. Mostly sunny today with a high near 90.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Goldilocks, offering 24/7 security solutions for homes and businesses. Call them today at 708-889-5600.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios.
I am a real American. Fight for the rights of every man. I am a real American. Fight for what's right. Fight for your life.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here, our Unsung Americans segment. These are not household names, but they build stable households that endure. They didn't necessarily live showy lives, but they showed others how to live. They've been making America great for 250 years, and we've been soliciting stories about people that others should know about. What we extol, we beget, so we want to extol good examples. And stories have been great that people have been sending in. Keep sending them. Dan@danproft.com. Dan@danproft.com is my email. Just email me, as people have been doing, and we'll go through them. And I got a couple more today I'm happy to share. Our friend Bob from Buffalo Grove, Bob the engineer, he offered up his father, David Johnson, born to Swedish immigrants, arriving in 1897. Born to Swedish immigrants, his dad was in 1913. He became their second son. Initially, my grandparents traveled the country with their two sons looking for work. In the 1920s, the family finally settled in Chicago, in North Park, around Foster and Kimball. And this is the part where, I think, Bob is a brother from another father, because his father got interested in golf as a teenager with his older brother and became caddies at Tam O'Shanter in Niles. In fact, his dad, David Johnson's older brother, was a caddy master in around 1930. This is something. He attended as part of the great fraternity of caddies. I love this. He attended Roosevelt High School in Chicago with a dream of becoming an architect. Never came to be his graduation, 1932, beginning of the Great Depression. Somehow he and his brother became truck drivers for a local laundry business, Argyle Laundry. It wasn't to be much of a future. He became friends with several truck drivers. Somehow my father, my uncle, and two others discovered a small failing laundry business in Lincoln Park. So at the age of 23, Bob's dad, David, became a partner with three others in trying to resurrect this failing business. And by the way, there's a good riff on this too. You want to turn Gen Z around and get them believing in free markets and a free society. Have them start a business and learn what it's like to try to succeed, against the government, against Leviathan and all the tentacles, and that'll turn people in a hurry. One guy was commenting how he's seen blue-haired leftists in Silicon Valley change their tune in a big hurry once they actually got into the business of trying to be part of launching a successful startup in tech. Anyway, back to Bob's dad, David. So at the age of 23, Bob's dad, David, becomes partner with three others trying to resurrect this failing laundry business. In 1940, with the business growing, he married and moved into a small one-bedroom apartment in the Irving Park area. Of course, World War II started in December of 41. My father, being a business owner, 28 years old, was passed over in the initial drafts. However, in 1943, with need for troops for the Pacific Front, he was drafted and sent to New Guinea. And Bob sent me pictures of him in the jungles of New Guinea with the indigenous peoples. Bob remarks, the cannibals that claim to eat Biden's uncle. Yeah. Uh-huh. Anyway, back to the business. His laundry business kept functioning with the two partners not being drafted. His father, as the war proceeded, was sent over to the Philippines after MacArthur liberated the island. So back home for 3 years, his mother was alone, Bob's mother alone in the apartment, while his dad was serving our country. Then he was, after liberation, he was sent to Japan as part of the occupation forces. He never wanted to talk much about his 6 months in Japan. Finally, in April of 1946, he returned home to my mom. His laundry business continued to function, but now with only one other partner and their employees. He didn't like unions, and the employees for this laundry business, mostly black, and Bob says he treated them so well that they never even had the desire to unionize. When it was finally time to start a family, 10 months after arriving home, Bob was born. 3 years later, joined by his sister. They all lived in a small one-bedroom apartment in the Irving Park neighborhood. I still recall house hunting in 1954, but money was insufficient to make a down payment on a house. Several of his friends were in the same predicament. Bob's grandparents never owned a home. On a fluke, a close friend noted a home for sale in Edison Park. It had minor issues, 3 bedrooms, but one was unfinished. It was on the market for a long time. It was priced way under the new homes in Chicago and suburban subdivisions like Morton Grove. Morton Grove was a suburban subdivision back then. Within days, my father and mother assembled the needed funds to begin the dream of owning a home. My childhood changed as I was no longer confined to an apartment building. His business thrived, but it required a lot of work, 60 hours plus a week. Growing up, my family seldom took vacations. There was no time to be away from the business. Living through the Great Depression, my parents were frugal with money, never had credit cards, always paid cash except for mortgage on the house. His one big enjoyment besides raising a family was golfing on Sunday mornings. Through the 50s and early 60s, while my mother and sister and I were in church, he was on the golf course. My mother was the proverbial golf widow. Well, that is a cathedral of a different sort. My father tried to ingrain me with his love of golf. Even at age 5, I had my own clubs, driver, 5-iron. There were his old wooden shaft clubs, which are cut down for a child swing with new grips. I still recall in 1955, he took me to witness a golf tournament on a course which he once caddied. Bob recalls seeing Sam Snead, slamming Sammy Snead. By the mid-60s, I was able to join him golfing. We generally played Sunday twilight golf in the summer months. Though my father was only a weekend golfer, he was fairly good, shooting in the 80s. Not bad for a weekend warrior, especially with the clubs back in those days. Small sweet spots. None of his golfing partners could beat him. I was never able to beat him except one time. My one and only eagle helped to defeat Dad that one time. Bob says his dad provided him with conservative principles, did not like FDR, hoped that Bob would never have to live through another Great Depression. He inculcated me to find a profession you will enjoy. He was really happy with his business. He was never really happy with his business, actually, but it provided him the necessities to raise a family, to own a home. Initially, I wanted to be an architect, which was his dream. However, a close friend of the family steered Bob towards engineering. And he, Dad, and Mom were able to provide Bob the money for a college education, no loans. He goes on to say, in 1974, not a good year. My mother died at only the age of 55. So did his business partner. He went into a depression, gave up golfing, and I lost my Sunday golf partner. Though Dad was ultimately rescued by a neighbor, the widow next door, they married about 2 years after my mom's death, and they started a new life. He sold the laundry business at 62 and a half and was able to retire. His second wife passed in 1981 at the age of 64. However, this time he did not fall into depression and returned to playing golf several times a week. But Bob the engineer, tells the story only way an engineer could. So matter of fact, completely unironic. He fell into depression when his first wife died, Bob's mom. Second time, I'm over it. I got to get back on the course. I'll fill the void with more golf. Okay. Winters were spent in Fort Lauderdale, where he could continue to play golf, walk the beach. He now had grandchildren to see once a week. Considering all the ups and downs, he had a good life, living to 85 years old. The business he helped build now is a memory, but the building's still there. He never lived to see the World War II memorial in D.C., sadly. But I visited the memorial, Bob writing, and saw his name, military history in the registry. I miss the days we'd play golf. He instilled with me my conservative principles. Bob the engineer from Buffalo Grove. All right. Great storytelling, Bob. Thank you. One more. This comes to us from Robert Byrne, Villa Park. Alice was born in Canton, Ohio on May 4th, 1921. She grew up from immigrant parents from Austria and Hungary, respectively. She was the oldest of 3 children, 2 younger brothers. My family was not rich, but both parents worked hard to make ends meet and to provide for their children. Alice, being the oldest, was the first to get work, helping her mother do laundry for other neighbors who were more financially fortunate. Eventually, Alice went through McKinley High School in Canton, Ohio, and went on to attend Case Western Reserve in Cleveland, using money saved from her laundry work to help pay for her education. She went into the school's nursing program. At the time, the most recognized and respected nursing program in the country, she stayed with her aunt and uncle in Cleveland to save money on room and board. Fast forward to 1943, the U.S. is at war. Alice achieved her master's degree in nursing from the university. After graduation, an Army recruiter came to the ceremony and stated to the graduating class, "You can either enlist as an officer in the Army Medical Corps or you will be drafted as a private." Alice immediately that day enlisted as a second lieutenant in the Medical Corps. She wanted to do her part. Her first assignment was at Bethesda Medical Center in Maryland. She was soon recognized for her exemplary work of duties. She was approached shortly thereafter to help spearhead a string of triage hospitals in the Marshall Islands of the Pacific. She was already eagerly packing when her superior officer, a colonel, stepped in and declared she wanted Alice to stay stateside and would not sign the orders for her Pacific Theater transfer. Alice never forgave the colonel for denying her desire to go where she could help the most. She was transferred to the hospital at Fort Knox, Kentucky, and was assigned as a chief nurse, now a first lieutenant, to help direct the hospital's operation. It was there she met Peter, an Army private who was interned at the hospital for exactly what reason, I don't know. They fell in love. They were married after the war. Peter was a loyal husband, hardworking and honest. Peter went on to work for People's Gas in Chicago. Alice found immediate employment at Northwest Hospital in Chicago. Together they raised 4 boys over the years, the first born in 1950. Somehow juggling 2 jobs between the 2 of them, they made it work. Peter worked days, Alice worked nights. Alice eventually took a position with the Chicago Public Schools as a district nurse. She was in charge of District 7, that included Cabrini Green, District 7's medical program, which included required inoculations for students to attend school. She would often have to go to the Cabrini projects with 2 policemen bodyguards to find registered children of the school system who had not been inoculated and administer the inoculations. She retired after 20 years from CPS. Peter retired in 1988 from People's Gas. Peter died in 1997 from an infection received at the hospital he was staying at due to a home accident. One of her sons, John, was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia at the age of 18. This is in 1973. John had a promising career with Motorola after his high school graduation, and he was gifted in electronics. Alice, drawing on her medical knowledge and also familiarity of the state and federal systems workings, devoted her life to helping John achieve status of living a normal life. She was responsible for the founding of the Illinois Alliance of the Mentally Ill, a support organization for people afflicted with that disease, paranoid schizophrenia. As a lifelong nurse, Alice lived up to her nurse's oath to, quote, devote myself to the welfare of those committed to my care, unquote. She cared and provided for John up until her passing. Alice and Peter were my mother and father. John was the brother of mine, just 2 years older than I am. I have two other brothers, both older. Alice passed away at the age of 100 on September 25th of 2021. She was ready to go to the Lord. She was sharp to the end, but her body just wore out. She was a true American, a patriot, but most of all, a dedicated Christian who opened her doors to humanity when someone needed a door to be open for them. Ironically, John passed in March of the next year to be with Mom, I would hope. That's Alice, and brought to us by Robert Byrne, Villa Park. Thank you for those stories.
It's like a hot, steaming cup of information to start your day. It's Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Man, I love this place. I've been surfing here since I was a kid. Now, seeing my grandson out on the water, it means everything to me. Watching him and taking in the blue waves, the sea breeze, the blurry horizon.
If you have geographic atrophy, or GA, subtle changes in vision could mean it's progressing toward irreversible vision loss. Izervay is proven to slow GA progression and could help preserve your vision for longer, so you may keep seeing the world around you. Izervay, or avacincaptad pegol, is an eye injection. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may cause blood in the white of the eye, blurred vision, or a temporary increase in eye pressure. Do not drive or use machinery until vision has recovered after an eye injection or exam. Ask your retina specialist how you can slow your GA with Izervay. To learn more, call 1-855-IZERVAY or go to izervay.com. Paid for by Astellas Pharma.
Oh,
If you're over 65 and struggling with knee pain, Joint Relief Institute offers a guaranteed way to treat it. It's non-surgical and often covered by Medicare and private insurance. It's JRI's Joint Arthritis Treatment, knee lubrication placement that's so accurate it's 100% guaranteed and can relieve your knee and shoulder pain in 10 minutes or less. Book your risk-free consultation today and get back to walking, golfing, pickleball to cycling without pain or medication. Call 708-315-6800. Meet the provider, get an x-ray and joint consultation. Why wait? JRI has treated over 30,000 Chicagoans and performed over 400,000 procedures. You could be next. Over 5,000 five-star Google reviews can't be wrong.
Stop living in pain. Call the Joint Relief Institute today, 708-315-6800, or visit jointreliefinstitute.com. Locations in Glenview, Oak Brook, and Orland Park. That's 708-315-6800 for the Joint Relief Institute. Medicare and most private insurance plans accepted.
AM 560, The Answer.
Remember, if you have someone like Alice Byrne or David Johnson you want profiled in our Unsung Americans segment, just email me directly, or you can email the station, but to email me directly, dan@danprof.com, and we'll keep telling those stories that you want told. People who made America great and have been doing so for 250 years. Coming up at 7:07, we'll talk about Plattner and the midterms and the rise of the neo-Bolsheviks. A little emphasis on the Midwest, as I was mentioning earlier. David Drucker from The Dispatch joins us at 7:07. It's now 7 o'clock on AM 560, WIND, Chicago.
This is a Fox News alert. After more back-and-forth attacks, President Trump says a ceasefire with Iran is over. I'm Chris Foster. Those attacks resumed after Iran struck commercial ships in the Strait of Hormuz. Fox's Mark Meredith with the president at the NATO summit in Ankara, Turkey.
President Trump is putting Iran on notice. Attacks on tankers moving through the Strait of Hormuz will not be tolerated. Overnight, the U.S. launching 80 attacks on Iranian targets. Iran responded overnight, launching their own counterstrikes at targets in Kuwait and Bahrain. We just got a statement from the Qataris who said that they are not happy with Iran launching these attacks on their Mideast allies. And while these latest strikes appear over for now, CENTCOM says it is standing by if more action is needed.
President Trump says he also wants to cut off trade with Spain.
Spain has been unwilling to go to the 5% contribution rate of GDP for NATO defense spending that other countries wanted to agree to, and that, of course, President Trump has been demanding.
U.S. trade deals are with the European Union, not Spain, directly. The main state Democratic Party says it's developing an open, inclusive, transparent, and fair process to replace Senate nominee Graham Plattner on the ballot, urging him to step aside, accused of raping a woman 5 years ago.
The main Democratic Party says Plattner's team has repeatedly reached out to them, asking what the replacement process would look like. Democrats are now scrambling to replace Plattner. One of the names being floated include former Maine Senate President Troy Jackson. He filed paperwork to open an exploratory committee. Senator Bernie Sanders had stood behind Graham Plattner despite his previous scandals. Now he's pulling his support, saying, I have spoken with Graham Plattner about the best path forward for Maine. In light of these very serious allegations, I have recommended that he step aside.
Fox's Madeline Rivera. The FBI, executing a search warrant at a home in Philadelphia, says remove 2 children from conditions described as squalid, unsafe, and uninhabitable, with dozens of cats inside that home, several of them dead. America's listening to Fox News.
70 degrees, sunshine at 7:02. I'm Mike Scott in the QC Kinetics newsroom. A 66-year-old woman was shot and critically wounded while waiting for a ride in the Inglewood neighborhood overnight. Chicago police say 2 dark-colored vehicles drove past that woman. Suspects inside fired shots at each other, not at the woman. The woman was caught in the crossfire and shot in the chest. A suburban Chicago smoke shop with 420 in its name is facing criminal charges after investigators said the business was illegally selling marijuana and mushrooms without required licenses. On June 25th, Cook County investigators, along with Berwyn Police, executed a search warrant at the store along 26th Street. During the search, investigators recovered about 36 kilograms of cannabis. Following their first court-ordered hearings yesterday, the owners were released from custody. An Indiana woman signed a plea deal Tuesday admitting she bought the gun that ended up in a deadly Chicago police shooting at Swedish Hospital. The woman suspected of buying that gun, used to kill a Chicago officer and critically injure another, is scheduled to appear in a federal courtroom in Hammond, Indiana this afternoon. Federal prosecutors say Olivia Burgos lied to buy the gun for a known felon. She's been federally charged with making false statements to buy that 10-millimeter Glock from a shop in Maryville, Indiana, back in 2024. Prosecutors say that was the gun used by Alfonso Talley, a 26-year-old Chicago man, to shoot and kill 38-year-old CPD officer John Bartholomew and critically injure his partner. Chicago sports. White Sox got crushed by the Red Sox 8-1 in their series opener. Cubs beat the Orioles 5-2. 7:04 is our time. We'll have a check of traffic and weather coming up next on AM 560.
Scott Jennings is a little skeptical.
Color me skeptical that the Iranians, particularly the ones in the IRGC, woke up this week with a new attitude. That seems very unlikely. But there is hope out there that the Middle East can be remade through this process, particularly through the ultimate goal of keeping the Iranian terrorists from having a nuclear weapon.
The Scott Jennings Show. Weekdays at noon, right before Hugh Hewitt at 2 on AM 560. The Answer.
If you have unfiled taxes or are in debt to the IRS, this is important news. Did you know the IRS has programs specifically designed to help people struggling with tax debt? Powerful tax assistance programs that can save you thousands if you qualify. No one knows these programs better than the experts at Optima Tax Relief, America's most trusted tax resolution firm, A-rated by the Better Business Bureau. Their award-winning tax attorneys and licensed professionals have resolved over $3 billion of tax debt for their clients. One call to Optima can start the process, helping to put an end to your worries about wage garnishment, asset seizure, and other aggressive IRS actions. Find the best options to solve your tax problems. Call the experts at Optima Tax Relief today for a free consultation.
Call 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Of all the wireless companies in America, only one has 5 stars in every category from Consumer Reports, and that company is Pure Talk. Coverage, support, value, data. 5 stars across the board. Plus, no service contracts and no cancellation fees. Just phenomenal U.S. customer service on a crazy fast 5G network. Dial pound 250. Say micro and switch to a 5-star American wireless company that won't let you down. Pure Talk.
Born on America's darkest day, September 11th, 01, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation, they have helped American heroes ever since. Heroes like United States Navy Chief Shannon Kent. Kent was killed in a suicide bombing, leaving behind her husband, Joseph, their 2 kids. Tunnel to Towers honored her sacrifice and paid off the family mortgage, giving them security forever. Donate $11 a month. Maybe you have a car to donate, land to donate. Please go to their website, the letter T, the number 2, the letter T.org.
2 years ago, Bobby Carpenter completed treatments for knee pain at QC Kinetics. So we're checking in with the former college and pro football player to see how he's doing.
I've been asked a lot, like, how long does this last? How long does it work? I go, I've had mine for a couple years, and everything feels very good. It feels just as good as it did when I started to turn the corner.
Bobby's an active husband, dad, and business owner. That's why 2 years ago, he heard about QC Kinetics, the nation's leader in regenerative treatments, and he knew he could trust them for his chronic knee pain.
And thankfully with QC Kinetics, I was able to go through this, and my activities are the same as it was. I'm able to coach my kids in sports. I can play golf. I can go run.
QC Kinetics patients like Bobby don't miss a beat. No surgery or rehab, just freedom from debilitating joint pain. Ready for lasting relief from joint pain? Call QC Kinetics today for your complimentary consultation and see if you're a good candidate.
Call QC Kinetics, 312-827-6261. That's 312-827-6261. 312-827-6261.
7:07. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. Accident, Hoffman Estates, Algonquin and Huntington Boulevard. Cleanup continues after an accident in Downers Grove, 55th and Fairmont, and an accident in Bloomingdale, Lake and Bloomingdale Road. Stop-and-go traffic, typical morning heavies in the roadwork zone on Route 53 northbound from the Ike all the way up to Kirchhoff. And a disabled vehicle in your way on Lakeshore Drive on the exit ramp to the outbound Stevenson. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. Now a check of your forecast in the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center.
Today will be mostly sunny with a high of 88. Tonight, expect partly cloudy skies with warm and humid conditions and a low of 72. Tomorrow, there will be intervals of clouds and sunshine with a couple of showers and a thunderstorm developing from late morning onwards. It'll remain humid with a high of 84. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Goldilocks, offering smart security systems to homes and businesses. Call Goldilocks at 708-889-5600.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. As we were discussing earlier, the effort to sustain the Graham-Plattner campaign, no more. But that doesn't mean that he's going to walk away, or at least not without extracting something. That's what the executive director of the Maine Democrat Party is openly complaining about. They're trying to set up a process for replacement, but the Plattner team wants input into who the replacement would be, even as there has been no announcement that he is stepping aside. And really, what's the incentive for him to step aside? What's he going to make a comeback down the road in state or federal politics? He'll return to ignominy where he frankly belongs, and that should have been obvious to anybody who was paying even passing attention. But, you know, the pursuit of political power can be blinding, willfully so. This was how the that party's ecosystem was attempting to guide Plattner's efforts after the New York Times expose, in quotation marks, as we've discussed, soft catch and kill, a month ago. So after they knew everything except the Jenny Rassicot rape allegation that came out over the weekend, but even some of them knew that. Certainly it would appear the New York Times did, based on what Lindsay Fifield has disclosed, one of the other accusers. Here's how they were handling it. Good example, Jen Psaki. Now, she's had a lot of practice because she was, flacking for Biden all that time, too. And she's hardly alone. This is the type of interviews that were being done in Plattner to try to buoy his chances.
There's going to be more coming at you. Has your campaign, I'm just putting my own campaign operative hat on here. Has your campaign been working to figure out what an opposition file with any additional allegations might have in it? Do you know that on your end? Have you thought about it?
Oh, I've thought about it extensively. I mean, here's the thing. I've lived my life. I was there the whole time. Much of the allegations that have come out as of late are literally just lies. And so, I don't really, they've already gotten to the point where they're moving into just making things up. And if we're already there, I don't know what else they're going to make up, because I don't know what's going around in the very weird minds of Republican operatives. And so the idea that they're going to try to scare me out of this race is rather laughable.
That's certainly what they're trying to do. And even that threat of trying to Biden you, as they're calling it, is certainly part of that.
Is that what they're trying to do? Like his former campaign staffer that left amid the first round of allegations? Jen Psaki, not particularly intellectually curious, but a more intellectually curious interviewer might have said, they're making stuff up. Well, what stuff are they making up? What allegation that's been lodged against you is untrue, is made up? And this is all coming from Republican operatives? John Favreau, Obama soy boy, similarly intellectually uncurious.
Have you had conversations with people who are skeptical about all the tattoo stuff or any of the old Reddit posts or any of that?
Oh yeah, I mean,
how do those go?
They go great. I mean, because it's because I explain it, and frankly, most people are like, that all sounds eminently reasonable.
Sure. Who are the people that you explain this to, and they come away saying that's eminently reasonable? When you come up with lines like, a dark period when I was young, making Reddit posts, I was 36, making statements about whatever masturbatory fantasies about porta potties and blacks being bad tippers and all sorts of other observations, calling myself a communist. I was a snot-nosed kid at 36. It was a dark period in my life. And, what guys do in dark periods of their life is they get a SS tattoo on their chest. It's just what guys do. Real men do this. I can't wait for Andrew Gillum. Do you see Andrew Gillum, who came within a whisker of being the governor of Florida in 2018? DeSantis only beat him by 34,000 votes, former mayor of Tallahassee. Incredible. Could you imagine first of all, how big a bullet Florida dodged? Can you imagine the different trajectory of that state had Andrew Gillum won? He got picked up for drug possession and whatnot in Bama. This was after he had already sort of, melted down. A couple years earlier, he got picked up for having drugs and being in the company of a male prostitute in Miami. Then he sort of disappeared from the scene. I'm looking forward to his redemption story. It's coming. I know it's coming. A couple election cycles, he'll make a very public conversion to Mamdaniism. He'll, make a very public statement about his newfound sobriety. And, he'll say, his dalliances with male prostitutes. That's the version of his Nazi tattoo. Just a dark time in his life. And, in dark times in real guys' lives, they engage the services of male prostitutes. I mean, that's just what guys do, real men. And it's Republican operatives making up lies, casting Graham Plantner in a bad light. It's really something. Meanwhile, these the great moral voices in the movement, the people who just call balls and strikes, like Bill Maher, is real independent-minded. He's willing to criticize the left, so that makes him an honest broker, as opposed to somebody who just wants the left to be more successful, as I'm always reminding people who platform Bill Maher. This is what Bill Maher said a couple weeks ago about Plattner.
And then, of course, there's the Nazi tattoo on his chest. I mean, seriously, this guy's whole life is the movie The Hangover. He doesn't need a term in the Senate. He needs a gap year in Costa Rica. And yet, I would still urge the folks in Maine to vote for him for two reasons. One, we need to restore balance in our government, and a Democratic Senate would help a lot with that. And two, get used to it. America is a country filled with a lot of broken, horribly educated, phone-addicted, sort of nutty people. And as long as we live in a representative democracy, we are always electing our reflection in the mirror. I wish
so. We should just concede the cacistocracy, I guess. Bill Maher's bootstrapped excuse for supporting Plattner. Yeah. Just give up on having people that are redeemable in the United States Senate. I got you. Very compelling stuff. David Drucker is a senior writer for The Dispatch. He's also the author of In Trump's Shadow, The Battle for 2024 and the Future of the GOP. David, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, good to be here.
So the Plattner saga, I mean, is he going to get out or maybe he stays? Why not?
I don't know. Look, I'm not convinced he's going to get out. What's he going to do? And look, let's back up a minute. What I find ironic here is that the guy that complains incessantly about all the rigging that goes on in American politics is now trying to rig his exit and rig the replacement. And and I will tell you, it's a bipartisan affliction. The people that complain about the rigging the most do the most rigging, or at least as much as they can get away with. So we'll see what he does. This is the first time I've ever seen him contrite seen him appear to recognize the gravity of the political situation he's in. He's canceled a bunch of events, a bunch of fundraisers. You're not, getting to find videos from him. So he would appear as though he's on his way out, but I'm not convinced he is. And, the people closest to him in terms of his advisors, I would guess don't want him to drop out. For a lot of those left-wingers or, far-left Democrats, they hate the Democratic Party more than they hate Republicans. And I don't think they care much whether they beat Susan Collins. What they care is whether or not they beat the Democratic establishment.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of truth to that, but we're seeing that happen all over. And it's not just on the East Coast. It's centered in the Midwest. I was talking about it a bit earlier in the show. Francesca Hong, leading candidate for governor for the Democrat side in Wisconsin. She's an abolish ICE. Police are a vestige of white supremacy kind of DSA candidate. Obviously, El Sayed, the leading Senate candidate for that party in Michigan. DSA just endorsed Cori Bush to join the caucus again in Congress representing St. Louis. I mean, there's a lot of this happening where it's this idea that, as Josh Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania, I think wants it to be, that there's a hash out in terms of what the party believes that's coming in advance of the midterms. I think it's been hashed out and not to his favor.
I don't think it's been hashed out yet. I think this debate's actively happening. I think the difference is that the populist wing of the Democratic Party, candidates and operatives and activists that define themselves as socialists, but some that don't, that say they're not socialists, they're just progressives, are much more numerous than they used to be. They're much more active than they used to be. They've actually nominated, and in some cases elected, candidates that are appealing and charismatic and likable. I mean, I'm in Michigan right now, and I was at that debate last night between Dr. El Sayed and Haley Stevens, the sitting congresswoman for the Senate seat here. Yeah. And look, I mean, the guy is a very good political athlete. Whatever you think of his views, he is good at being a politician, and that's something that this wing of the party for a long time didn't have.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't come across like rabid, like a Rashida Tlaib, but by the same token, just saying you didn't say something that you said, like I didn't say abolish ICE, here is you saying abolish ICE, not that impressive. His sort of fork-tongued answers about Israel's right to exist, since he's so obsessed with AIPAC and the AIPAC and Jewish-oriented conspiracies he's soft-pedaling, I mean, that's not the most skilled presentation I've ever seen. Maybe it impresses his primary voters, but I think he makes the race very plausible for Mike Rogers if he's the nominee.
Yeah, it's possible. In theory, that's the case. I know Republicans believe that. And I think you're right in the way you assess the way he bobs and weaves when it comes to these positions, right? But like I have seen over the past 10 years, politicians like that do extremely well.
Yeah, true.
And in part, it's because at the end of the day, he boils down his message to getting money out of politics, putting money in your pocket. I'm quoting him now, and passing Medicare for all. And people love the idea that everything wrong in politics has to do with corporate cash and sending money overseas. Look, this was one of the things that helped Trump's rise, the Republican Party, at least in terms of the signals it sent, is that the whole system was corrupt and we're sending all this money overseas and I'm going to fix the corruption. And so you are right. And in fact, in the gaggle yesterday, I asked Dr. El Sayed about his views on Israel. He was accusing Haley Stevens of supporting Israel because of AIPAC and because of corporate money. And I said, isn't it possible she just supports Israel and that the people who also support Israel are therefore donating to her campaign? And he won't move off of this position that, no, this is all about money. And so that's where he is. But the way he presents himself, the way he really simplifies the message when he's in control of it can be very effective. We don't know if he'll win the primary yet. We don't know if he'll win a general election if he's the nominee. My point is, in a cycle like 2022 or 2014, there's no way this kind of candidate wins in Michigan. But in a 2018 or a 2026, you cannot rule it out.
And would you say the same thing about Tallarico in Texas? That's really in play, or is it more like Ted Cruz and Colin Allred, where it's like it's not really in play like you think it is? It won't be a blowout, but it's still Texas, and Ted Cruz is going to win by 5 to 7 points, and that's just how it's going to be. What do you think here with Tallarico?
So I think 2018 and the race against Beto O'Rourke is a better comparison. It was a really strong Democratic cycle. The Cruz campaign, I know from covering that race closely, was exceedingly worried, and it was, in fact, a really close race. At the end of the day, Texas is a Republican-leaning state, often a very strong Republican state. That helped save Cruz. Michigan is a swing state. Texas is a Republican-leaning state. I would still say that because of the cycle we're in, which is a strong Democratic cycle, and because Ken Paxton is such a flawed candidate with so much scandal and baggage, that Tallarico is going to make this thing competitive. I still bet on Ken Paxton to win because of the makeup of the state, but you can't rule out an upset the way you could 2 years ago and even 2 years before that.
From a political perspective, with the Trump announcement that the ceasefire is effectively over, but the MOU is effectively on the shelf right now after the strikes that were launched yesterday, which Trump changed his tune on, those were not proportional. Those were for punishment. Those, his description. Not happy with the Iranians and what they're doing in the Strait. And, the story in part was Hegseth and Rubio got to him at the NATO conference in Turkey and convinced him to launch these strikes. J.D. Vance not there. And one wonders, exactly what the dynamic is between the senior leadership as it pertains to Iranian strategy here, and how much of a wild card this could turn out to be if we have fits and starts and things look like they're tracking one way and calming down, and all of a sudden hostilities spike up, and so do oil prices, and we're back where we were just a few weeks ago.
Yeah, look, I think it's hard at this point to know where this is going to go because Trump changes his mind from week to week, and he just does. You look at the course of the war leading up to the MOU announcement. And every other week there was a deal or wasn't a deal. We're going to bomb them into oblivion. We're not going to bomb them into oblivion. I don't know where Trump is going to be 4 days from now. It's clear that Secretary Rubio and Vice President Vance approached this differently, but we didn't need the Iran war to know that they approach these things differently. It all comes down to Trump, and I think sometimes Trump is in a bombing mood. I think at other times he's looking at the stock market and the bond market and and interest rates, and he just wants this thing to be over. And he hasn't made he's never made a really sustained, cogent case to the American public. Tried to bring along Congress, tried to bring along our allies. He's just kind of acted as a guy alone. So it's hard for me to tell you where this is going. I mean, I will say the war, which I think there's a great case for, does put pressure on oil prices, which puts pressure on inflation across a range of consumer goods, not just gas in your car. And look, that theoretically makes it tougher for Republicans in November.
Just one more aspect of the Plattner story. I got to get your comment on the New York Times and that arguable soft catch and kill that I certainly argue it. They did with the story they did a month ago, and how they seemingly leveraged what they knew Jenny Rassicot was going to allege to sort of diminish that and accentuate the Lindsay Fifield accusations that were more easily challenged by political operatives on the left. Just and even Michelle Goldberg is sort of offering sort of some half-assed mea culpa right now in the New York Times. But what you think about the journalistic practices as evinced by the way they handle the Plattner thing over the last couple of months?
Well, look, I mean, I haven't dissected all of these stories, and I know people, and I know people have a lot of opinions. I think that we wouldn't know about any of this without the reporting of the New York Times, the Washington Post, and I think the Wall Street Journal. There are local outlets in Maine that have done a lot of reporting. I know that Fifield went on the record and Roscoe initially did not. And as a reporter, I mean, I'm hamstrung all the time by what people will tell me on the record versus what they will not. And when I'm dealing with serious allegations like sexual assault, I can't do background reporting. I just won't do it. So I am not hereby declaring that the New York Times handling of this was pristine, because I've been too busy doing my own reporting on my own stories. What I will tell you is that Lindsay Fifield's allegations should have been damning enough for the party to throw Plattner overboard, and the party chose not to. The Roscoe allegations were of a measure worse in terms of how most people look at this, because one was sort of sexual misconduct and one was rape. But I think the spotlight should be on how the party handled this, as though all of Plattner's ethical baggage and the sexual misconduct that we knew about wasn't enough, that it took this. And so it's, on the one hand, good that it took this, but it shouldn't have taken this. And that, I think, is what Michelle Goldberg was getting at, which is we were all explaining this away, and it should have been a signal that this guy was a bad guy. I will tell you, Dan, I mean, I've been doing this now for 25 years. I mean, in the last 10, 15 years in particular, voters on both sides of the aisle have been, and it's the voters, by the way, who nominated and gravitated to Plattner, even when they knew about the Nazi tattoo and the Reddit post and all of that. But voters on both sides of the aisle have looked past scandal and baggage and just said the other side's evil. I want somebody who's going to fight for me. People are imperfect. And so they care about the scandal of their opponents. They don't care about the scandal of their own candidates.
Yeah, there are degrees to that, but you're right. I mean, that's certainly an element. David Drucker, senior writer for The Dispatch, author of In Trump's Shadow, The Battle for 2024 and the Future of the GOP. David, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Yep, anytime. Thank you.
Thank you. And you join us in the FWealthGroup.com, Angeline.
There's only one radio show in Chicago talking about today's biggest stories and telling you what they really mean. That show is this one, Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
SES Americom Incorporated CX Team Systems Integration Testing Engineer, Chicago, Illinois. Will support Intelstat software pre-release testing and continuous improvement activities. Duties include assess impact on CX KPIS of Intelsat HW changes, SW releases, network changes, portal updates, new device models and core apps, and browser updates. Collaborate with system engineering and the virtual architecture teams to define and conduct lab tests covering the onboard CX KPIS and report results. Following their Intelstat acquisition, SES Americom Incorporated is the successor in interest. 40 hours per week, salary $129,413 depending on experience. Any applicant who is interested in this position may email or mail resumes to the attention of Carly Osario, Specialist, Global Mobility, 7900 Tyson's One Place, McLean, Virginia 22102, or email carly.osario@ses.com.
Foundations of Freedom, a look at America's founding principles and the leaders who shaped our nation.
When Abraham Lincoln was elected president in 1860, America stood on the edge of collapse. Over the next 4 years, the Civil War claimed more than 700,000 lives and tested whether our republic could endure. As the war drew to a close, Lincoln looked beyond victory. He looked toward healing. In his second inaugural address, he challenged the nation. Let us strive on to bind up the nation's wounds, to achieve and cherish a just and lasting peace. Lincoln understood that preserving the greatest experiment in self-government required more than winning a war. It required the character to restore what had been broken. More than 160 years later, America still faces division. The question is not whether we'll disagree. The question is whether we still have the wisdom and the character to heal together.
All right, I'm so excited I can golf on our golf outing. And the reason why I can golf is because of Virago. Yes, I even called Dr. Huber the other day and said, I don't know what's going on. I've had shoulder pain for a year. I did not want to have surgery. Don't have time for downtime at all. So I called Dr. Huber and said, what's going on here? This is the only thing I've been doing different. And he said that Virago is an anti-inflammatory. So a lot of pain is associated with inflammation. So swelling's gone. I could use my shoulder again and I will be golfing. But here's what you do. Virago is so much more than an anti-inflammatory. It's an antioxidant. It has nutrichemicals working together in synergy. and it even protects your heart, kidneys, and liver. And because it's liquid, folks, your body absorbs it quickly. I mix my Virago in with my orange juice. You can put it in smoothies, and you will feel the difference. Trust me. So order your bottle of Virago today at myvirago.com. That's myVIROGO.com. Use coupon code IMMUNE to save 30%. myvirago.com, coupon code IMMUNE.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right, coming up at 7:37, Congressman Jim Jordan. Yeah, Jim Jordan from Ohio is going to join us to talk about immigration law enforcement and sanctuary jurisdictions, like Chicago, Cook County, and Illinois. Jim Jordan, 7:37. Now we check the headlines with Mike Scott.
7:33 in Chicago. In our QC Kinetics newsroom, the U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Illinois is facing additional calls for his resignation this week by a few public officials, this time in the city of Chicago, where Alderman Michael Rodriguez presented a resolution to a city council committee in which he calls into question the U.S. Attorney's judgment.
More than 100 former federal prosecutors have publicly expressed concern that the office's reputation for integrity, professionalism, and political independence has been tarnished.
The measure advanced by Rodriguez holds no weight or authority. It was adopted by the council near unanimously. Mayor Brandon Johnson is warning City Hall about a possible budget shortfall this year in Chicago.
Last December, we warned that some of those revenue sources would not perform as the caucus members or city council members that were more aligned with the interests of corporations. Now, halfway through the year, we are seeing those warnings come to fruition.
Meantime, the list of heavy-hitting challengers running for Chicago mayor continues to grow, but Mayor Johnson continues to run from the issue of re-election. Iran says it's launched missile and drone attacks on military sites in Kuwait and Bahrain for retaliation for recent American strikes. President Trump in Ankara, Turkey, says he's done negotiating.
They're liars, they're cheats, they're sick people. They've hurt their people. They killed 54,000 people as of now that were protesting. When people say, how come they haven't taken over? They can't take over because they're dead.
Attacks have repeatedly threatened the shaky ceasefire. Oil prices shot up after the president spoke. Two are in custody after a deadly shooting in Mundelein. Mundelein police were called out yesterday to an apartment in the 500 block of Deepwoods Drive. Officers found a man and woman with gunshot wounds. The man died. Illinois State Police later found the suspect's vehicle on an interstate near the Indiana border and took a man and woman into custody. And Kentucky officials this morning have shut down the US 51 Ohio River Bridge connecting Cairo, Illinois, and Wickliffe, Kentucky, for safety reasons. The Kentucky Transportation Department saying special inspections are being performed after citizens reported a noticeable change in the bridge deck. They suggest a detour to the nearby Interstate 24 bridge, but that bridge is down to one lane in each direction due to construction. Chicago sports, Cubs over the Orioles 5-2, and the Red Sox beat the White Sox 8-1. The news, a service of Woodland Windows and Doors. Marvin Replacement Windows and Doors can bring your backyard right into your living space, making it seem brighter and more spacious. Visit woodlandwindows.com to book your consultation. A check of the roads in 2 minutes on AM 560.
Larry Elder believes it was the right decision.
It was quite courageous for President Trump to start a war with Iran in the first place, given the absence of support by the American people and the absence of support by the international community. And why did he do it? Because it was the right thing to do. Because 7 previous presidents had kicked the can down the road.
The Larry Elder Show. Weeknights at 8, right before Sean Hannity at 10 on AM 560. The Answer.
If stairs in your home are becoming difficult, there's a practical solution, and it doesn't have to come with pushy salespeople. Access provides dependable stair lifts designed to help you stay safely in the home you love. No gimmicks, no overselling, just honest guidance, quality equipment, and professional local installation. We'll explain your options, work within your budget, and let you decide what's right at your pace. For a straightforward, no-pressure, free in-home consultation, call 616-6249 or visit allaboutaccess.com.
On Salem News Channel, principled voices are shaping today's conversation. Scott Jennings brings clarity to the toughest debates. Josh Hammer's blistering commentary puts politics and culture on trial. And Alex Marlowe's insight connects us to what matters most. Watch anytime on Samsung TV Plus, Pluto TV, or find us on your screen at snc.tv. 3 new shows, 1 powerful lineup. Salem News Channel, across America.
Each morning, the newsmakers and the newsbreakers shaping today's conversation are heard on the AlphaWealthGroup.com answer line on Chicago's Morning Answer. When you need answers about what's happening in your world, you turn to AM 560 The Answer. And when you need answers about how to prepare for and protect your retirement, you turn to the Alpha Wealth Group, now the proud sponsor of the AM 560 Answer line, right here on Chicago's source for news, opinion, and insight. AM 560 The Answer.
Terracon Consultants Incorporated seeks project engineer in Lombard, Illinois to follow safety rules, guidelines, and standards for all projects. $124,093 to $125,093 per year. Medical, vision, and dental benefits. Apply at jobpostingtoday.com/reference number 57880. Again, Terracon Consultants Incorporated seeks project engineer in Lombard, Illinois. Apply at jobpostingtoday.com/reference number 57880. Progressive Insurance. Progressive can protect your home, auto, boat, motorcycle, ATV, RV, and more. In short, a lot of things. Bundle today at progressive.com.
7:39, Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. Jane Addams Toll Road this morning. Accident, 3 left lanes blocked. It's on the eastbound side of I-90 between Route 59 all the way to Roselle Road. Tri-State southbound, an accident reported being shoved off onto the left shoulder between the Grand Avenue curb to right before North Avenue. Also a disabled vehicle being cleared northbound on the Tri-State right before Deerfield Road. And stop-and-go traffic in the Dan Ryan Express lanes this morning inbound between 47th and the Stevenson. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. And now a check of your AM 560 forecast. In the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center. Mostly sunny, a high of 90 today.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
This hour is brought to you by Retirement Decoded with Scott Tucker and Amy Jacobson. Heard Sunday mornings from 7 to 9 a.m. Learn more at retirementdecoded.com.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Jennifer Gorman, mom of Sheridan, murdered by an illegal immigrant in Chicago from Venezuela. Multiple opportunities for law enforcement to stop him. Preventable crime. Lovely young lady, Loyola undergrad, killed enjoying the beach in Rogers Park with her friends, as you all know who listen to the show because we've talked about it quite a bit. Jennifer Gorman, testifying before Congress last week, offered a nice juxtaposition of what people who play by the rules in Illinois experience at the hands of the people that we have elevated to high offices in this region of Chicago and the state of Illinois.
One of the things that happened, I'm sorry I've done this, but one of the things that happened is we're in Chicago getting ready to claim my daughter's body, and the mayor there is naming a truck Abolish ICE, standing and laughing and joking while my daughter was just murdered there. Like, what?
Yeah, it's pretty inexplicable, isn't it? But that's a perfect juxtaposition. And during her emotional testimony, which we brought you last week, but we'll do so again, you can't really hear it enough, frankly, until things change here. Begging the electeds.
Because my Sheridan Grace Gorman should still be alive, and no mother should have to stand where I am standing, begging elected leaders to value my child's life after it's already too late. I cried when I came into the room. I saw this poster that you made. It says, at every stop, the system had a chance to stop him. At every step, it failed. And my daughter paid for those failures, your failures, with her life. No family should ever have to bury a child because public officials fail to put American lives first. I'm just asking you to choose us. We choose you. We choose you. Choose us. Why does my child matter less than an illegal immigrant? Why? Listen, I have a heart. I love immigrants. Two of my best friends in this whole world are immigrants. They came here the right way. I absolutely think they make America beautiful. But my daughter's beautiful too.
And I think the testimony that Jennifer provided last week was less meant for the politicians in D.C., most of whom I suspect she knew wouldn't care very much. Like Pramila Jayapal, who responded to her testimony by saying, why are we talking about sanctuary jurisdictions again? She can't be bothered. I get it. Jennifer Gorman gets it too. I think the point was to offer her testimony in the hopes that some people watching and learning about her story, her family story for the first time, they may care. And maybe they can make an impact in jurisdictions not named Chicago and Illinois. Because BLM Brandon, the guy that was yucking it up with his Abolish ICE snowplow naming ceremony while Jennifer Gorman was claiming her dead daughter's body, he's sticking with the notion that police and prisons are a sickness.
Everywhere where we've made these critical investments, particularly where CVI exists, that's where crime has dropped the most dramatic. That's what's going to work. We've already seen what jails and incarceration can produce. And yes, I get why you are referencing this. Our over-reliance upon jails incarceration is a sickness, and I stand by it.
Of course he stands by it. Why stop now? It's going so well. For more on the topic, we're pleased to be joined by Congressman Jim Jordan. Of course, he's representative for Ohio 4. Representative Jordan, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
You bet. Good to be with you guys.
The impact
there for a second. I apologize. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, sure. No problem. The impact of the impact of Jennifer Gorman's testimony last week.
Yeah, it was. I've been in Congress a long time, and it may have been the most powerful, emotional testimony I've heard. It said, as only a mom can say it. But I think the real takeaway is, remember, these sanctuary jurisdictions now are almost a third of the population lives in what is a sanctuary jurisdiction, where, again, the political class tells local law enforcement, don't work with federal law enforcement to enforce the law. That's what's going on in 18 big cities, 11 states, and of course Chicago and Illinois are in both those categories, and 3 large counties like Fairfax County just outside of D.C., and of course in the District of Columbia itself. So all those areas are sanctuary jurisdictions. That represents 31.5% of the population live in those areas where they are saying, when an immigrant commits a crime, we are not going to tell another crime. In addition to entering the country illegally, they commit some crime with federal law enforcement. When you have these soft prosecutors, many individuals just get released to the streets, and then they do terrible things. As example number one, of course, what happened right there in Chicago.
Is there anything more that you would like to see the federal government do, or that it could do that it's not doing currently to try to work around and through sanctuary politicians as best as possible?
Yeah, we have a bill that's already passed committee. We're looking to pass it on the House floor, which would other jurisdictions, it's going to be more difficult for you to get federal aid. We also say if you're a local law enforcement do so, you cannot penalize and have your local government come after you. And then finally, we create a cause of action where grief can take action if something bad happened to your loved one or to yourself, or in this situation, you had a loved one die. They can go after the actual local government.
Oh, so like a civil cause of action. So the Gormans could sue the city of Chicago, the county of Cook, the state of Illinois potentially if this legislation had been it is signed into law.
Exactly right, and that's what we're looking to do. Hopefully, we will pass it. But I think it's important to understand this is part of a broader, position and actions and process that's put in.
But Representative Jordan, you're cutting out a little bit. Are you still there?
Sorry, Dan.
Oh,
yeah.
You cut out. You were just saying this is the more important thing. This is a part of a larger position. I think you were going with where.
Yeah, I apologize.
Yeah.
We're out on the road today and are traveling across our district. I apologize. So step one, they let in 10 million illegal migrants. Step two, create sanctuary. Government to remove those migrants when they commit an. And then step three, don't fund the people who do the removing. Don't fund ICE. So they had this three-part plan that they were executing all these past several years. With these prosecutors. Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. This three-part.
Hello?
Yeah, can you hear me? Why don't,
yeah, I got you now.
Oh, you got it.
I apologize, Dan.
Okay, no problem. Sorry, you were just saying this three-point approach, and then you cut out. We got that.
Yeah. So this three-part plan, and of course, then you add to it a fourth step, which is prosecutors who actually say they have written policies. We had hearings on this as well, where they were taking into account a migrant deportation status, a criminal's deportation status when they decide what kind of crimes they're going to charge him with and what kind of plea agreement they're going to have. So it is really just how crazy the left is. But we're seeing this whole procedure play out, this process play out across the country. And frankly, I think will be one of the key issues in the upcoming midterm election.
I mean, just the whole sort of defunding of sanctuary jurisdictions that was talked about in the 2024 campaign, and I know there are material steps, and you're describing more, but it feels like it hasn't really gone. There hasn't been an effort to really go to the mat on this and make this sort of a litmus test for getting any federal funding for anything. And if that requires litigating it through the federal courts all the way up to the Supreme Court, then let's do it. It sort of strikes me as like the going after the universities that were platforming anti-Semitism and discriminating in the admissions process. But at the end of the day, there were some niceties and there were some fines paid, and now the money is flowing back to these illiberal institutions of higher education. It seems like that's sort of the same thing happening from the feds to the state locals.
Yeah, we got to be. You're right, and it's why again I think our legislation is so good, because we come at the problem in three ways. It's not just the money that we look to restrict. It's also the ability for local law enforcement to actually work with federal law enforcement and they not be penalized and come after by their local government. And then third, when something bad happens in this situation, the Gorman family would have a private right of action to go after the city of Chicago for their crazy sanctuary policy. So I think that is the best approach. We just need to get this legislation passed. Came out of our committee strong, and hopefully we'll get it across the House floor over to the Senate as soon as possible.
What about the administrative side, too, the bureaucracy, Department of Transportation? I mean, you have states, Tom Homan was just saying this on Fox yesterday, you have states that are not cooperating with the feds when it comes to the illegal issuance of CDLs. And actually, you had a CDL that was issued by the state of Ohio to use Becky National, who killed a 21-year-old soccer player from University of Massachusetts Lowell in a hit-and-run crash. And so, I mean, I know Ohio, I know LaRose is not one of those non-compliant, but just the point is to say, look, if you're not going to help us interdict people who shouldn't be on our roads, who are here illegally, who have illicit CDL licenses, then you're not getting any transportation dollars. All that stops, period.
Yeah. No, I think we're going to have to go to that. And I think we should also realize that most law enforcement wants to work with federal law enforcement. Most local law enforcement, they go, we want to have a good relationship. We want to work together. We want to enforce the law. It's just the crazy left political class that is pushing local law enforcement not to do this. So that is just how insidious and crazy the left's policies are.
What is the, just talking about the Midwest, we've been talking about it all morning because of these sort of DSA or DSA adjacent candidates that are the leading candidates for statewide offices in places like Michigan and Wisconsin. And even though President Trump has done well in Ohio the last 3 cycles, the races for both U.S. Senate and governor there, at least according to the polling right now, seem pretty tight. Can you give us perspective on what's happening on the ground in Ohio?
Yeah, they're close right now, but I think we got good candidates. I think will prevail. Vivek we endorsed him early. I really like him, sharp guy. I think he'll be fine. I don't think his opponent is Amy Acton. Her claim to fame is she was the Fauci of Ohio. She was trying to lock down the state. And I remember even she was wanting to close golf courses back in the spring of 21, I believe. And jeepers, golf courses. That's like the definition of social distancing, for goodness sake. So
that's worse than a Nazi tattoo.
I think he'll be fine.
Yeah.
I think, and I think our Senator John Husted, he's got Sherrod Brown, who's been in office like 48 of the last 50 years or something in Ohio. It's been, he's been in office a long time in Ohio, and they recruited him to run again. So that'll be a race, but I think Senator Husted is doing a good job as our senator and will prevail as well. But they'll be tight races. Ohio has historically been, before President Trump, has historically been a 50-50 state. Of course, President Trump made it so that he won big, 8.5, and I think almost 12 points in 24. So we'll just have to see, but I think we're going to be fine.
And what's your outlook on the House?
I think we can win. Redistricting helped us. We're raising the resources and money that you need to win these races. We have good candidates, and then finally, I think you got to just look at how crazy the left has become. I always say, not all Democrats are crazy, but the left that controls their party is. And you can look no further than you would reference this, but go back to New York a couple weeks ago. Dan Goldman was the impeachment attorney for Adam Schiff. I spent 4 months in a skiff in the bunker in the basement of the Capitol with our chief counsel during the impeachment 7 years ago when they went after President Trump with their crazy, secret impeachment in the Intel Committee. And Goldman was the guy Adam Schiff brought in as their lead counsel. We were down there with depositions and hearings and everything else. Dan Goldman wasn't good enough for the left. The guy who was the impeachment counsel wasn't good enough for the left. In fact, he got beat by 30 points by some crazy radical anti-Israel, anti-Semitic kind of the position that these Democrat socialists take. That's how radical they are. So I think it's important we point out that we're the party of common sense, they're the party of crazy, and show all the examples.
Do you have any concern that if the Senate fails to move the SAVE Act, that it will, depress the base a bit?
I mean, we should pass the SAVE Act. We've done it in the House, I think 2 or 3 different times. It's just good common sense. I hope it gets done. But even if it doesn't, I think we still go to the voters and say, here's how radical the left is. They won't pass, photo ID to vote, for goodness sake. They're the party that wants an open border. They're the party who wants to defund ICE, defund the police. They're the party of sanctuary jurisdiction. They're the party of men and women's sports. And you can just keep going. They're the party of craziness. And I think you just point all that out.
And you just tie all the candidates to the Daria Lisas and Mamdanis and Tallaricos of the world, I suppose.
Yeah. I was doing an interview a few weeks ago, and I said you could summarize the midterms in 2 sentences. They're crazy, we're not. And I think, again, you highlight that, the positions that they've taken over the years, and they continue to take. And it seems like they're just moving further and further left, as evidenced, again, by what we're seeing in many of these primaries.
Representative Jim Jordan, Ohio 4th Congressman. Representative Jordan, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
You bet. Take care. Thanks.
Thank you. And he joined us on the alphawealthgroup.com answer line.
This is the morning show more Chicago radio listeners are choosing. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
If you're drowning in IRS debt and can't afford to pay, then you need to take advantage of special IRS tax programs that are available and free yourself from IRS collection efforts once and for all. Due to the financial hardship consumers are facing throughout the country, the Internal Revenue Service has made it easier to settle delinquent tax problems. An open phone line has been established by Community Tax for consumers to call and see if they qualify. Take down this number or store it in your cell phone, but call the Community Tax Helpline, 800-305-6762. If you owe back taxes to the IRS and cannot afford to pay them back, or even if you have years of unfiled tax returns, there's no need to fear anymore. But you have to call the Community Tax Helpline today at 800-305-6762 for the help that you need. Don't take on the IRS alone. They can attack your wages, savings, pension, home, and even your Social Security check. That's 800-305-6762 for your free consultation and to see if you qualify. That's 800-305-6762.
Man, I love this place. I've been surfing here since I was a kid. Now, seeing my grandson out on the water, it means everything to me. Watching him and taking in the blue waves, the sea breeze, the blurry horizon.
If you have geographic atrophy, or GA, subtle changes in vision could mean it's progressing toward irreversible vision loss. Izervay is proven to slow GA progression and could help preserve your vision for longer, so you may keep seeing the world around you. Izervay, or avacincaptad pegol, is an eye injection. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may cause blood in the white of the eye, blurred vision, or a temporary increase in eye pressure. Do not drive or use machinery until vision has recovered after an eye injection or exam. Ask your retina specialist how you can slow your GA with Izervay. To learn more, call 1-855-IZERVAY or go to izervay.com. Paid for by Astellas Pharma.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right, coming up at 8:08, we're going to talk to research fellow at George Mason University's Mercatus Center about AI and specifically, among other topics, Sam Altman's play to offer a 5% stake in OpenAI to the federal government or a sovereign wealth fund. What's the angle there? We'll start with that topic at 8:08. It's now 8 o'clock on AM 560.
This is a Fox News alert. The fighting has resumed between the U.S. and Iran. I'm Chris Foster, and now President Trump says he thinks a ceasefire is over after Iran attacks tankers in the Strait of Hormuz and the U.S. strikes Iran in response.
I don't want to deal with them anymore. They're scum. You know what scum is? They're scum. They're sick people. They're led by sick people. And they're vicious, violent people. And if they had a nuclear weapon, they'd use it.
Fox's Mike Tobin.
The U.S. response has increased intensity. 8 times as many targets were hit compared to the last time the U.S. responded to Iran firing on ships in the Strait. CENTCOM says the strikes included defense systems, command and control networks, coastal radar sites and anti-ship capabilities, and some 60 Revolutionary Guard small boats.
Iran then targeted U.S. military sites in the Gulf. The president's meeting now at the NATO summit in Turkey with Ukraine's President Zelensky. The Trump administration announces a major investigation, it says, of fraudulent work visas obtained through schemes involving employers and brokers submitting bogus applications. Labor Department Inspector General Anthony D'Esposito on Fox Business.
We've already started to issue dozens of subpoenas. We are going to make sure that we track down every lead. We have whistleblowers talking about some of the biggest companies like Cognizant.
It's a tech company found guilty already of discrimination by abusing the visa program to bring in cheaper workers. Some evacuations are lifted in New York City near a high-rise building with buckling support columns.
New York City Department of Buildings Commissioner Ahmed Tigani says measures taken to temporarily stabilize it seem to be working.
Emergency struts or jacks are in place to hold up and stabilize where the weak points are, but they are also installing new steel as another emergency intervention, which is creating stability.
A third-party engineer has also been brought in. The 1970s-era building, which was the former headquarters of Pfizer, is being converted into luxury apartments.
Fox's Tanya J. Powers in New York. America's listening to Fox News.
73 degrees at 8:02. I'm Mike Scott in the QC Kinetics newsroom. A 66-year-old woman was shot and critically wounded waiting for a ride in the Inglewood neighborhood Tuesday night. Chicago police tell us 2 dark-colored vehicles drove past the woman and then fired at each other. The woman was caught in the crossfire and shot in the chest. An Indiana woman has signed a plea deal admitting she bought the gun that ended up in a deadly Chicago police shooting at Swedish Hospital. The woman suspected of buying that gun, used to kill the officer and critically injure another, is scheduled to appear in a federal courtroom in Hammond, Indiana this afternoon. Federal prosecutors say Olivia Burgos lied to buy the gun for a known felon. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson is calling on President Donald Trump to fight violence the mayor's way.
Consider this a call, Mr. President. I'm calling on you to invest in building more affordable homes across this country. I'm calling on you to respond to the needs of people who cannot afford grocery and gas.
Meantime, the mayor did not discuss the search for the Superintendent Snelling's replacement when he spoke at City Hall. Instead of mentioning Snelling, he praised his own youth employment and behavioral health and violence intervention work.
But everywhere where we've made these critical investments, particularly where CVI exists, that's where crime has dropped the most dramatic.
Violent crime numbers did drop under Snelling's leadership as 3 years as superintendent. Chicago sports. Cubs beat the Orioles 5-2. Red Sox beat the White Sox 8-1. The news, a service of the AM 560 mobile app. Download the AM 560 mobile app at 560theanswer.com/mobile. Time now for the AM 560 Business Beat, a service of Signature Bank.
I'm Charles Payne, and this is the Fox Business Report.
President Trump has said he thinks the U.S.-Iran ceasefire is over. Stock futures are sharply lower. Crude oil prices are spiking. Brent crude at $78 a barrel. West Texas Intermediate up to $74. Apple will spend more than $30 billion on Broadcom chips over the next 5 years. The deal's expected to result in producing more than 15 billion chips in the U.S. It will expand manufacturing in Fort Collins, Colorado. Honda is recalling more than 300,000 Odyssey cars in the U.S. because of rear-view image display issues. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration says the recall involves some models from the 2018 to 20 year. There is a concern that water might enter the rear-view camera and impact its ability to function. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Jenny Coselda. Invested in you.
Mike Gallagher wants just a couple of things.
I've said this a million times. For me, it's twofold. Make sure they can't produce a nuke, and that's mostly to protect Israel. And number two, open the doggone Strait of Hormuz, get the oil flowing, and get prices down in America. That's it for me.
The Mike Gallagher Show. Weekdays at 9 on AM 560. The Answer. WIND, Chicago. Don't miss In Grace with Pastor Jim Scudder Jr., now heard on Sunday mornings at 7:30. Tune in and find hope as Jim Scudder explores God's Word and His world each Sunday morning right here on AM 560, The Answer.
I'd like to tell you about a man named Phineas who as a child survived the Holocaust. Phineas survived because Christians hid him from the Nazis, risking everything to save his life. Today, Phineas is in his 80s. He can no longer stand on his own or even leave his home to receive medical care. And when sirens sound and missiles fall, he doesn't have the time or the strength to reach safety. But once again, Christians are helping to save his life. Through the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews, a mobile clinic brings doctors and medicine right to Phineas's doorstep, providing care that he otherwise would not receive, especially during a time of war. Phineas said, "Christians saved my life during the Holocaust, and now again, they are helping me." As Israel's Holocaust Remembrance Day approaches, remember these precious children of God by lifting them up in prayer, asking for His protection, His comfort, and His peace. Stand with Israel in prayer by visiting supportifcj.org. That's supportifcj.org.
Picture warm Gulf breezes, turquoise waters, white sand beaches. Now, at Evenings of Conversation with Salem Media's Mike Gallagher, Scott Jennings, Larry O'Connor, and Jennifer Horn. This November, sail from Fort Lauderdale to the Bahamas, Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, and Mexico on a 7-day journey built for those who love this country. Book your cabin today when you text the word cruise to 94878. Celebrate America's 250th anniversary the right way on the Gulf of America Cruise. Book your cabin now. Text the word cruise to 94878.
Your kitchen's outdated. Your bathroom feels cramped. Every day you wait, prices go up. And you keep living in a space that doesn't work. At Forever Remodeling, one team handles everything. Design, planning, and installation, start to finish. We show you your new space in 3D before we ever break ground. No surprises. With flexible financing options, the home you want is closer than you think. Visit foreverremodeling.com. That's the number 4everremodeling.com to schedule your personalized in-home design consultation.
Of all the wireless companies in America, only one has 5 stars in every category from Consumer Reports, and that company is Pure Talk. Coverage, support, value, data. 5 stars across the board. Plus, no service contracts and no cancellation fees. Just phenomenal U.S. customer service on a crazy fast 5G network. Dial pound 250, say micro, and switch to a 5-star American wireless company that won't let you down. Pure Talk.
Born on America's darkest day, September 11th, 2001, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation, they have been helping American heroes ever since. Heroes like U.S. Army Sergeant William Bernard McKenna, exposed to burn pits. McKenna later died from T-cell lymphoma, leaving his wife, Dina, and 2 daughters. Tunnel to Towers honored Sergeant McKenna. They paid off the family's mortgage in honor of all of his sacrifice. Donate $11 a month. If you have a car to donate, if you have land to donate, go to their website, the letter T, the number 2, the letter T.org today.
Take the journey of living a happy, successful, and meaningful life through God. Listen to It's Time with Dan Lights, Sunday mornings at 9 on our sister station, AM 1160. Hope for your life.
8:09, Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. Buffalo Grove, report of an accident. Lake Cook Road eastbound right before Arlington Heights Road. Due to an earlier accident on the Jane Addams, I-90 jammed up eastbound between Route 59 to past Roselle Road. And delays on the Kennedy this morning inbound at Addison with an accident being shoved off to the right shoulder. Traffic, a service of Steiner Homes. Building homes is more than a business. It's a calling. Family-owned and dedicated to building custom homes with care, integrity, and craftsmanship you can trust. Visit SteinerHomesLTD.com, Northwest Indiana's leading home builder. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. But first, a check of the AM 560 forecast in the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center.
Today will be mostly sunny with a high of 88. Tonight, expect partly cloudy skies with warm and humid conditions and a low of 72. Tomorrow, there will be intervals of clouds and sunshine with a couple of showers and a thunderstorm developing late morning. It'll remain humid with a high of 84. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Vice President J.D. Vance offered some interesting commentary on economics in a discussion with the Daily Wire's Michael Knowles recently. The free market economic policies of Milton Friedman were fine for the 80s, but the party and the country moving in a different direction. And Vance is good with that.
I mean, even things like when the president said a few weeks ago that, he absolutely wanted to seize the equity of the AI companies. And, you're not supposed to say that. And it's like, guys, he's the president and he sets the agenda and he just said it. And by the way, nobody really even protested. Yeah. So the president has already, and obviously I'm biased, I'm his vice president, but the president has already completely reoriented the conversation towards what you might call an American developmentalist approach. American economic policy on the right is now much more Alexander Hamilton than it is Milton Friedman.
Yeah.
I think that's obviously a good thing. You might disagree, but that's just a normative statement. That
Notice, though, what you've just said, because for the people who say that betraying some nostalgic retconning of a caricature of the 1980s, that to change that in any way would be abandoning American history and the tradition, you say, well, hold on, I just went from Milton Friedman to Hamilton, and to some degree George Washington.
Right, 200 years backwards in history, actually. That's very much a foundation of American developmental economics and economic policy. And I do think, you know, I don't want to say you can go back to the future or, you know, forward to the past, but I do think fundamentally that Hamiltonian tradition is going to be what we see on the American right and will dominate American conservative economic thinking for the future.
Yeah.
Which is not laissez-faire. It's actually much more about, you know, building the kind of tools, building the kind of infrastructure that allow human beings to flourish, that allow national and native industries to flourish at the expense of a hyper-globalized economy. And I think those are the basic principles that are going to carry us into the future. But to me, it's fundamentally...
So, I mean, if the Chinese communists are going to take a stake in their AI companies, we might as well follow suit. I mean, we did it with Intel. Sam Altman over at OpenAI is apparently picking up what Trump and Vance are putting down. Recently filing for an IPO with the SEC... The company reportedly wants to reserve 5% of its shares for the public, not as private owners, but to the government or a sovereign wealth fund. Give the federal government a 5% stake in OpenAI, which is not an inconsequential thing for a company with $1 trillion valuation. And the guns. Don't forget about those. Beijing does that, takes stakes in major tech companies known as quote-unquote golden shares. Seems like a term that Trump could warm up to, golden shares. Yeah, Sam Altman, a man of the left. Hamiltonian, huh? Yeah, Keynesian. OpenAI is inviting the government to expand industrial policy. In fact, they issued a 13-page white paper entitled Industrial Policy for the Intelligence Age, where they call for expanded government control of AI and the private economy. Also, higher taxes on capital gains, corporate income, and quote-unquote automated labor. It also suggests that government incentivize a 32-hour work week with no loss in pay. Interesting. The melding of the left and the right when it comes to, well, rent-seeking is rather euphemistic, frankly. Industrial policy is even rather euphemistic. Fascistic? Is that overstating the case? For more on the topic and other related AI matters, please be joined by Laya Palagashvili, Senior Research Fellow and Director of the Labor Policy Project at George Mason University's Mercatus Center. Laya, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hi, thanks so much for having me on.
What do you think about Sam Altman and J.D. Vance and the Chinese communists all sort of coming together around state stake in AI and AI development? And boy, OpenAI has got a whole economic taxation and regulatory program.
Yeah, that's quite interesting. I think it changes our institutions in the U.S. quite a lot if we move in that direction. I'm not sure if you saw some of the updates from OpenAI and Anthropic too, but they're also starting to say, look, we might have been wrong about the AI impact on workers. They've kind of walked back the narrative that they think AI will be this like doomsday impact on U.S. jobs and workers in general as well. So there's some of that rhetoric change as well that's going on.
Yeah, I'm not really keen on like a techno state lorded over by Sam Altman and and the Anthropic boys and with some politicians in tow, or vice versa?
So I think that would vastly change the dynamics of our economy and our institutions. I think the U.S. has been built on a different sort of institutional mix where we had limited government, and that allowed a lot of freedom for workers and businesses to grow and build on their own. So I think that sort of step would make a big change in how the U.S. has been operating and kind of the fundamentals of I would say, U.S. institutions.
Yeah, I mean, just on the job front, I know you wrote about that for the Journal. There was a paper out from a couple of economic research labs, and they find that looking at 21,000 businesses to measure AI's impact on jobs, they find that firms that adopt AI heavily grow headcount 10% over 2 years following adoption, whereas low adopters actually see no statistically significant change in employment. So at least in the short term, high AI adoption may actually mean expanding the human workforce to cope with the increase in productivity and the growth and the growth opportunities.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think that's why some of the big AI companies have started to change their narrative, because previously we've been told it's going to be this doomsday, half of all jobs will be gone sort of thing. And I think, the research that you've pointed to and what I found as well is that we're actually seeing job growth in AI exposed sectors, but more importantly, what's really fascinating is I'm actually seeing early evidence that AI is making it easier to work for yourself instead of inside of a firm and a company as well. And the idea here is that AI is lowering the cost of operating without a firm. So things that once required a team or team support or other employees like research, drafting, design, bookkeeping, one person can now do that alone. And I think we're starting to see, based on the research, and I'm happy to dive a little bit more into what I found, that we're starting to see that it's making it a lot easier for people to operate as one-person firms.
And you are drawing that conclusion based on the data surrounding business applications in part, right?
Yeah, on part, I looked at Census Bureau has monthly business application updates. So they count the number of business applications that come in every month. And of those business applications, they also say, like, hey, here's a group that will likely hire employees in the future. And so what I looked at is the other side of that group, those business applications coming in that are unlikely to hire employees in the future. So that's kind of our best real-time measure of that one-person firm, that one-person solo business formation. And what we're actually seeing is that business applications in AI-exposed sectors that plan to hire employees in the future, they actually fell since 2024. But business applications with no plans to hire, they rose 27%. So all the growth that we've seen in the last 2 years came from people starting businesses on their own, not to build companies, just to work for themselves.
And so, I mean, is there any sort of working theory about what's happening here? You're inside of a bigger company, and now you can go outside because the tools exist for you to do the same sort of development work or consulting work as a sole proprietorship and increase your take-home pay, as opposed to being in a more corporate button-down environment. Is that the theory?
Yeah, that's the theory. I mean, I have friends who work in big consulting. You've got a consultant who once relied on junior analysts, editors, designers, a junior person to do all the PowerPoint presentations and the pitch decks that they have to do. They can now perform many of those functions with AI tools. And the same as a researcher. I'm a researcher. I'm an economist. I can now produce near-ready publication work with far fewer institutional resources from my own company than prior to AI. So I think in industries where AI can handle research, drafting, coding, analysis, the results aren't necessarily unemployment. It may be a growing ability to work outside traditional firms. And I want to point out one more thing, actually, because in addition to looking at business applications, we're actually seeing this show up in the monthly labor statistics as well. So I looked at the occupations that are most exposed to AI, and I saw that solo self-employment in those occupations jumped 20% between 2022 and 2026. And those are the sectors that are in professional services, information, and other kind of AI-exposed sectors. But in occupations that AI barely touches, so think about construction or wholesale trade, the growth in solo self-employment for workers barely moved.
So, I mean, so that's where things are at now. But I mean, with respect to sort of the the unsupervised machine learning, I mean, do you see the possibility of a trajectory where there's this initial spike in employment to deal with increased productivity and growth, to provide more entrepreneurial opportunities, as you're describing, but ultimately, as the AI gets more sophisticated and continues to learn, then it crowds out some of these benefits that are being produced right now?
I think that's a real possibility, that in some sort of jobs and tasks, we might see AI replace it completely. But what we also know about technological progress and growth and these sort of technological shocks is that there are also new industries and new roles and jobs that form that we might not be able to foresee, 10 years from now.
Right.
And so it's quite possible that in 10 years from now, there is no software developer job itself, but there might be other jobs that support that, or other industries, new industries that are created precisely because AI has kind of become this technological shock that we can't exactly predict what's going to grow out of it. But it's the same way that other technological shocks have operated, where in the 1900s, we wouldn't have, if you look at in the 1900s, there were no jobs for airplane pilots, right? And that's an entire industry, 100 years later, with tens and thousands of jobs and so forth. So I think you might get that sort of effect where some jobs might disappear entirely in 10, 20 years from now. But what's important is the net job growth. Are we seeing jobs grow on net because of the AI shock?
Laia Palagashvili is Senior Research Fellow and Director of the Labor Policy Project at George Mason University's Mercatus Center. Thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
And she joined us in the alphawealthgroup.com answer line.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer.
Your show keeps me alive during the week. There's nobody I'd rather listen to between 5 and 9 in the morning than you guys.
On AM 560, The Answer.
Hi, it's Amy Jacobson, and last year I hired Level 10 Coatings to give my garage floor a total makeover, and I am loving it. It still looks great, shiny, and clean. Level 10 Coatings. Now, you've got to call these guys if your garage floor is cracked, stained, still covered in salt. Don't live like that. Get it done now so you can enjoy it this summer. Level 10 Coatings. They're fast, reliable, and highly professional. Guess what? I went to work. When I came home, it was done. A shiny, new, gleaming garage floor. A quick, easy fix. And it's guaranteed never to chip or peel. Why? It's not an epoxy job. It's better. Level 10 uses polyurea, which is much better than epoxy. So schedule your free quote today and mention me, Amy, to receive $500 off. Visit level10coatings.com. That's level, the number 10, coatings.com, or call 855-510-2628. Staff are local and ready to answer questions. Level 10 Coatings, your premier concrete coating experts.
Hey Chicagoland, Jeff from Jeff Buys Your House. The military taught me that every mission is different. You assess the situation, listen to your team, then execute a plan built around what's needed. Same with helping families sell their homes. Whether it's an inherited house, a parent needing senior living, or life's just taking you in a new direction, we don't show up with a one-size-fits-all answer. We start by listening. What's your timeline? What are you worried about? What would make this easier? Then we build a solution around your needs. No repairs or cleanout are necessary. You pick the timeline that works for you, keep your memories, and we handle everything else. Since 2007, our veteran-led team has earned hundreds of 5-star reviews by doing exactly that, listening first, and treating every family with respect. If you're ready for a no-obligation conversation, call us at 630-895-9530. That's 630-895-9530 or jeffbuysyourhouse.com. That's jeffbuysyourhouse.com.
If you're near retirement or thinking about retiring, you probably have a lot of questions. How do you make your savings last? How much should you take out and when? You're ready for retirement, but are your finances? I'm Edward Jones financial advisor, Nolan Webster. Let's work together to make sure your finances meet your unique needs over the long haul. You've done what it takes to get there. Now it's time to make the most of retirement. Call me at 224-801-6107 to schedule an appointment. That's 224-801-6107. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
At Audi Morton Grove, your complete satisfaction means everything to us. As a family-owned dealership, we're dedicated to making every visit your best experience. Whether you're shopping for a new Audi, visiting for service, or simply taking a test drive, you'll always receive the personal attention and exceptional care you deserve. Visit us at 7000 Gulf Road in Morton Grove or online at AudiMortonGrove.com. McGrath Auto. Service, value, reputation. That's the power of McGrath.
Scott Jennings fearlessly fights back against the mainstream media on the Scott Jennings podcast.
So the Democratic message for the 2026 midterm is, we don't love America. That's it. The message from the left is, as long as people that we don't like are allowed to win elections, we hate America. That's a heck of a thing to be running an election on. We hate America.
Subscribe for free today on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, or SalemPodcastNetwork.com.
Business owners, now's the time for your business to make the move to a locally owned business bank. Hi, Mike Gallagher here to let you know that you don't have to look far. Signature Bank was founded in Chicago with a simple mission to help companies like yours grow, succeed, and thrive. Their decisions are made locally by a terrific team that knows your name, cares about your business, and invests in your success. That's why Signature Bank is my bank. I'm a customer. As business owners, they knew that local family-owned businesses were not getting the help they needed or deserved. So I invite you to reach out to my friends at Signature Bank today. Write the number down. Remember this phone number, Signature Bank, 773-467-5630, and learn all about this great bank, 773-467-5630, or visit them online at signaturebank.bank. That's signaturebank.bank. Signature Bank makes commercial banking personal. Member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Have you ever wondered, with all the different religions and interpretations of the Bible, how you can be sure that you're on the right path in your spiritual journey? The powerful new book, You and God by Peter Philippi, helps you answer this question and discover how to establish a truly personal relationship with God through biblical understanding and faith. Get your copy of You and God by Peter Philippi today by visiting pbmusa.org. That's pbmusa.org.
My name is Whitney Allen, and I'm a widow. My husband, Ryan, died. We never thought we'd ever have to use life insurance, but the unexpected happened. With Ethos, signing up was fast and 100% online. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. No medical exams, and you can get up to $3 million worth of coverage. I'm grateful we were prepared.
Get your free quote at ethos.com/term. That's ethos.com/term. Paid spokesperson. Time spent on application may vary. Online health questions required.
When you've thrown over 4,000 innings like I have, you know joint pain isn't a maybe, it's a guarantee. For you, was it climbing ladders or too much heavy lifting? Hey, we're all in the same boat. But surgery, that was never my answer.
Baseball legend Roger Clemens knows there's a better way. That's QC Kinetics regenerative treatments that help your body heal itself. No scalpels, no fake fixes, just real relief.
What I love about QC Kinetics, these are the most respected medical pros in the country that specialize in non-surgical therapies to get you moving again.
Don't mask the pain, fix it. Call QC Kinetics now for a free consultation.
I trusted QC Kinetics. You should too.
Call QC Kinetics today and schedule your free consultation.
Call QC Kinetics, 312-827-6261. That's 312-827-6261. 312-827-6261.
AM 560, The Answer.
For those of you who thought that Kevin Klein was warming up for the role of his life as Kentucky Senator Mitch McConnell, you get the reference there, Dave. NBC Dave. Scott Jennings had a 17-minute call with Mitch McConnell, who fell ill. Cardiac event, it was reported. People were speculating as to whether or not he was still with us. He very much is, according to our colleague in sound, Scott Jennings.
He called me this morning before I did my radio show. We talked for about 17 minutes. He talked a lot about the situation with Iran, talked a little bit about Ukraine and what's going on in Europe. I told him I'd been to the Teddy Roosevelt Library. We talked a little bit about the history of the vice presidency and how Roosevelt had transformed that in the modern presidency, a little history of the Senate. It was a wide-ranging conversation. I talked to him often. I hadn't talked to him since he'd been in. I'd gotten a few text messages from him, but I hadn't spoken to him. So it was good to hear his voice. Voice sounded strong and sounded like he was keeping up with the news to me.
Did you ask him how he was feeling?
Yeah, he said he was feeling okay. Obviously well enough to call me on the phone, and obviously well enough to talk to Barrasso and Thune. Now, look, I'm not qualified to discuss any medical issues or give you any information about that. That's really for him or his staff to do. But, I talk to him from time to time, and I see him from time to time. And, we had a conversation today about the things that we normally talk about, which are news of the day, political stuff.
Did you come away feeling like he's still capable of serving the people of Kentucky as senator?
I came away feeling that he was staying on top of the news. Again, I look, his condition and why he's in the hospital or when he might come out or look, that's.
Do you know why, and are just saying it's not at liberty to share?
I do not know why. I only know, frankly, what has been reported or what his office has said.
Is he well enough to vote for the SAVE Act by any chance? Do you know? Coming up at 8:38, Trump is really working down the list. He's bombing the Iranians. He's chastising Western European NATO allies, in quotation marks, somewhat understandably. And he's cutting off trade to Spain. We'll talk about it all with Cameron McMillan from the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies at 8:38. Now we check the headlines with Mike Scott.
Sunshine and 77 degrees in the QC Kinetics newsroom. A 66-year-old woman was shot and critically wounded in Chicago, waiting for a ride in the Inglewood neighborhood. Chicago police say she was caught in the crossfire between two dark-colored vehicles who opened fire on each other. Chicago police broke up a large teen gathering in the Back of the Yards neighborhood late last night. The large crowd had gathered in the area of 54th and Peoria. Hours earlier, a person was shot and killed in the same area. Mayor Brandon Johnson warning Chicago City Hall about a possible budget shortfall.
Last December, we warned that some of those revenue sources would not perform as the caucus members or city council members that were more aligned with the interests of corporations. Now, halfway through the year, we are seeing those warnings come to fruition.
The mayor's mid-year budget report shows alternative revenues, part of the city council-backed budget, have fallen more than $130 million, according to the mayor. Vice President J.D. Vance will be in Wisconsin today talking about fraud. Iran has launched missile and drone attacks on U.S. military sites in Kuwait and Bahrain. President Trump says from Ankara, Turkey today, it will not be the last strikes.
We hit them very hard last night, very, very hard. Probably hit them hard again tonight. I'll give them a little warning, we're going to hit them hard tonight. But we'll see how it all works out.
The president also believes while talks can continue, current negotiators are wasting their time. A huge wildfire in southern Colorado has grown to 94,000 acres. The latest update from last night says the Aspen Acres fire is still just 16% contained, but seasonal monsoon rains are hitting the region today. A former football player at Morgan Park High School and Eastern Illinois University is dead after a shooting in Harvey. Police say Keyshawn Lewis Hunt was shot and killed Monday during a house party at his grandmother's home near 160th and Ashland Avenue. And Do It Best Hardware Group says it's relocating its True Value Hardware headquarters from its longtime headquarters along Bryn Mawr Avenue in Chicago to Do It Best Global headquarters in Fort Wayne, Indiana, creating greater opportunities for innovation, efficiency, stability, and growth in that state. Chicago sports. Cubs beat the Orioles 5-2. White Sox crushed by the Red Sox 8-1. John Cass World Cup Soccer Tournament winners, Argentina and Switzerland. The New is a service of Woodland Windows and Doors. Marvin Replacement Windows and Doors can bring your backyard right into your living space, making it seem brighter and more spacious. Visit woodlandwindows.com to book your consultation. A check of the roads in 2 minutes on AM 560.
Alex Marlow explains the president's strategy.
He was never a regime change guy. He was never a boots-on-the-ground guy. He was always a bomb the bad guys quickly and leave guy and try to broker new deals so that new countries can come into the fold economically on a global scale. This is it. I have to say this every show, and I will continue to say it every show until the message becomes crystal to everyone.
The Alex Marlow Show. Afternoons at 3, right before Sean Thompson at 4 on AM 560. The Answer.
Foundations of Freedom, a look at America's founding principles and the leaders who shaped our nation.
When Abraham Lincoln was elected president in 1860, America stood on the edge of collapse. Over the next 4 years, the Civil War claimed more than 700,000 lives and tested whether our republic could endure. As the war drew to a close, Lincoln looked beyond victory. He looked toward healing. In his second inaugural address, he challenged the nation. Let us strive on to bind up the nation's wounds, to achieve and cherish a just and lasting peace. Lincoln understood that preserving the greatest experiment in self-government required more than winning a war. It required the character to restore what had been broken. More than 160 years later, America still faces division. The question is not whether we'll disagree. The question is whether we still have the wisdom and the character to heal together.
Do you owe $10,000 or more to the IRS like Mark?
I've been doing home remodeling for 30 plus years, but the economy crashed. I wound up losing my home, losing my job, and on top of that, owing the IRS a ton of money. I owed the IRS $114,000. It really, truly was the worst part of my life.
Then Mark found tax relief advocates.
On news radio, I heard about TRA, and I thought, what's the worst that could happen? So I picked up the phone and I called them. When it was all said and done, TRA settled my $114,000 debt for $100, and I'm telling you, I was ecstatic. Could not believe it. I would recommend TRA to anyone.
If you owe 10 or even hundreds of thousands of dollars to the IRS, don't lose hope. Do what Mark did and call TRA for a consultation.
But TRA did. They gave me a second chance, and I'm forever grateful.
Visit TRA.com or call 800-575-8924. 800-575-8924. That's 800-575-8924.
Hey Chicagoland, Jeff from Jeff Buys Your House. When people call us, they're often dealing with something overwhelming. An inherited home full of belongings, parent needing senior living, managing an estate while juggling everything else in life. Here's what our sellers have to say after working with us. The very thought of hiring an agent, a cleanup crew, and dealing with months of uncertainty was overwhelming. But Jeff's team gave me permission to just leave it all. I took what mattered and they handled everything else. Another seller wrote, even my Medicaid specialist said Jeff Buys Your House is the name to trust. They gave me a fair price without the traditional real estate headache. And this one, they handled every hiccup. Title issues, paperwork, estate complications. I finally felt relieved. For nearly 20 years, our veteran-led team has earned hundreds of 5-star reviews for its professionalism, compassion, and seamless service. No repairs and no cleanout. Take your memories with you and we'll take care of the rest. If you're ready for a no-obligation conversation, call us at 630-895-9530. That's 630-895-9530 or jeffbuysyourhouse.com.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Goldilocks, offering 24/7 security solutions for homes and businesses. Call them today at 708-889-5600.
8:40 Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. Accident in Glen Ellen, Crescent and Ellen Avenue, and in Carroll Stream, North Avenue and Schmoley. An accident reported on Route 53 northbound between the Ike and Northwest Highway, and police and emergency vehicles headed to that scene. Slow traffic on the ramp to the inbound Ike from the Jane Addams this morning, and things are slow and heavy on the Stevenson on the outbound side between the Chinatown feeder and the Dan Ryan Expressway. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but first, a check of the AM 560 forecast. In the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center, mostly sunny with a high near 90.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. So yesterday, Trump, tired of the Iranian mostly peaceful approach to the ceasefire, continuing to fire on commercial ships in the Strait of Hormuz, Trump responded. CENTCOM forces completed a round of offensive strikes, hitting more than 80 targets with precision munitions as an immediate response to Iran's latest attacks on commercial vessels transiting the strait. U.S. struck Iranian air defense systems, command and control networks, coastal radar sites, anti-ship missile capabilities, and more than 60 IRGC small boats in and near the strait to degrade Iran's ability to continue attacking international commerce flowing through the international trade corridor, according to CENTCOM. In addition to that, Trump's Treasury Department killed Iran's oil waiver and replaced it with a revocation and short fuse wind down to move on Iran oil and petrochemicals. Effective yesterday, all new production, purchases, or loading of Iranian crude, petroleum products, and petrochemicals stop cold, only winding down under the existing redesignation, which is, say, probably zero deals. Only deals under this reduced designation are allowed, and only over the next 10 days. Also, any payment to Iran during this period must go into a blocked interest-bearing U.S. account, tightening financial pressure and keeping Iranian proceeds inside the U.S. blocking perimeter. So sort of reimposing some of the strictures of economic fury as twinned with epic fury. And this all while Trump was holding court with Turkish President Erdogan, of whom he was very complimentary, talked of a special relationship, while expressing his disappointment with NATO.
Well, we're going to see. I was very disappointed with NATO. And frankly, if it weren't held in Turkey, where my friend happens to be a very strong leader, a very strong person, it's possible that I wouldn't have attended. I felt I had to attend because of the fact that, I know he's gone all out. It was a big thing to have NATO come to Turkey or any place else. It's a big thing. But we weren't treated well because we did something in Iran. We don't need anybody's help. I didn't even want their help. But before I asked, they said they wouldn't be there. And we've invested trillions of dollars in NATO. Why? To protect European countries and others, Canada, etc., but to protect people, countries from, generally speaking, it used to be the Soviet Union, now it's Russia. And I say that's fine, but you would think that they'd be very willing to do something to help us, and they really weren't. In the case of the United Kingdom, the Prime Minister, I guess he's no longer there, maybe because of this. It was a very unpopular thing he did. He said, "No, we'll help after the war is over." I said, "I don't need that kind of help." We didn't need any help at all. And in a way, I was testing people. I was testing to see whether or not they'd be there, because I've long said that we helped them, but I'm not sure that they'd be there for us. And Italy turned us down, and Germany turned us down, and France turned us down. And it's okay. But, why are we spending hundreds of billions of dollars and they're not there for us? We've always been there for them.
And Trump went on to say that Turkey could have gotten involved in supporting the Iranians, but they didn't. Maybe it was because of Trump's relationship with Erdogan. He openly mused. Maybe it was. And that the Turks have been more helpful to the United States than some of our older, more traditional allies in Western Europe, which is why he also announced that he's lifting sanctions on the Turks. And he was pretty positive on selling F-35 fighter jets to the Turks as well, even over the objections of Netanyahu and others who are a bit concerned about Erdogan's posture towards Israel and the fact that he's essentially Muslim Brotherhood, which is not necessarily aligned with the West's interests, particularly America's. For more on all this, Cameron McMillan joins us, Senior Research Analyst at the Foundation for the Defense of Democracy's Center for Military and Political Power. Cameron, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hey, good morning. Thanks for having me.
So, how do you interpret the latest round of strikes, the declaration of the ceasefire being over, the MOU ostensibly on the shelf, and Iran not turning over that new leaf that J.D. Vance said was happening with much alacrity these days?
Yeah, I think it's helpful to kind of take a step back and look at what our military objectives are. People have kind of made a lot of hay about whether political objectives were clear or not, but the military ones were actually articulated pretty clearly by the CENTCOM commander and by the chairman of the Joint Chiefs throughout the conflict, and it was to destroy, which is an important verb, Iran's ballistic missile, drone, and naval capabilities in order to eliminate Iran's ability to project power outside of its borders. And I think that's important to say because those are kind of the three elements. And then the final part is what we'd call in the military an end state. You know, it's like, what are we trying to accomplish at the end of this? And I think the bottom line is if we ask ourselves, can Iran still project power outside of its borders, even if those three buckets of capabilities have been degraded? The answer is yes. I mean, they're still continuing showing an ability to conduct attacks, not only in the Strait, but throughout the region. And the United States, while we've severely degraded Iran's military power, if you look at some of those targets that you read from the CENTCOM announcement, if we look at some of the previous strikes, a lot of those types of targets are remaining the same, right? So if somebody says, hey, we destroyed Iran's air defenses, well, I'd ask, why do we keep hitting them, right? So a lot of that military power, though greatly diminished, Iran still retains enough that that end state has not been met. And in terms of negotiations, to be frank, I expect no progress to be made in negotiations with a regime that remains radical, views itself in an existential fight to retain its horrific grip on power over the Iranian people, and that the president is going to face a decision whether he will resume full-on military operations, sustained military operations in order to try to accomplish those objectives that were at the beginning of the campaign.
And especially in this context, how do you receive the remarks that he had in the direction of NATO as well as Erdogan yesterday?
Yeah, so if we're looking at the kind of frustration that's been going back and forth over the Atlantic over the Iran war, I think despite comments from political leaders, including the president, and really with the exception of really only two countries, Spain and Italy, most of our European allies were actually extremely helpful during Operation Epic Fury. If you listen to the Secretary General, Mark Rutte, the other day pointed out that between 4,000 and 5,000 U.S. planes launched off of American bases in Europe to support the operation. We had bombers coming out of the UK. We had air refueling tankers coming out of several countries. So a lot of that power projection that our bases in Europe allow us to project not only through Europe, but into the Middle East and Africa and the Mediterranean really played an important role. And some of these, to kind of give a more tangible example maybe for the listeners, is there's a place in Germany called Landstuhl Regional Medical Center. It's basically a hospital where service members are evacuated to if they're seriously injured in the Middle East. And in this war and many wars before it, including Iraq, where I served, there are Americans that are alive because of Landstuhl Regional Medical Center and have limbs and have their vision. And so despite what the president may view as his frustration with European heads of state, the reality is that we would have had a lot of difficulty conducting an operation of such size and scope as we did in Iran without Europe granting access to those bases for us to use those bases, which is their right as they're in their sovereign territory. And the overwhelming majority of them did.
And yet you still heard the characterization of some of those countries from Trump as being disappointing in terms of their responses.
Yeah, I think a lot of that's driven out of, frankly, European heads of state having conflicts, really, again, isolated to just a couple in Italy and Spain. I think the rest kind of tried to keep their heads down. You know, they didn't want, to be frankly, I think from their perspective, they weren't consulted on the war. The president said, we don't need your help, but we want your help, but we don't need your help. And they're in a tough political spot in their own, because we got to remember these are democracies, right? And they have, like all political actors, act within their own political interest. And so I think a lot of them tried to keep their head down, where they said, we don't really want to get into this war, and we don't really know if we're invited from the United States. But at the same time, we don't want to make the president so frustrated that it will further erode transatlantic ties. I think that was their hope. It clearly did not work, because the president is still frustrated. But I think the reality is that those American bases, the vast majority of them, played a crucial role in supporting operations against Iran.
The Saudis issued a statement expressing their displeasure with Iran again. I mean, you know, at some point one just wonders, why isn't that if the Gulf states find Iran particularly annoying, at least a significant number of them, combined with the special relationship we have with the Turks, he said, combined with how you're describing the contributions made by at least some of our NATO allies, in addition to the Turks, and the contributions Trump described from them, then why is it we don't take the Strait of Hormuz card away from the Iranians, even as there is sort of medium to long-term efforts made to make the strait less important commercially?
I mean, I think the bottom line is because it would be costly. I think we could do it. I think we have the capabilities to do it. I think it would be a sustained campaign, and it would come at a cost, and it would likely come at a cost of additional American lives. And it would come at a cost of additional munitions and capabilities and resources and all sorts of things, and an economic cost as well. So the reality is, what I think is the president entered this operation hoping that it would be quick, to be frank. And it wasn't, right? And I think the reality is when you launch a war, and I want to be clear from my perspective, this is a war, right? Whether we view it like that or not, the Iranians certainly do, the Gulf certainly does, Israel certainly does. This is a war. And when wars kick off, you don't know where they're going to go. So you've got a plan. It's going to take 4 to 6 weeks. We're going to hit these missile silos. We're going to hit these drone storage sites. We're going to hit these Iranian ports with their Navy, and then we'll be done in all the 4 to 6 weeks. But you ending your deliberate target list does not mean the end of the conflict, right? So wars can go all sorts of ways. The Strait question was predicted by many, but I think that the president had a hope that the Iranians would kind of call it quits and there'd be some sort of shock and awe. And now he's faced with the question of, do I commit more? Do I keep going down this hole and try to get the Strait open, or can I avoid it? And I think the jury's still out on that, whether we can avoid it and Iran still does not retain control, even limited, over the Strait. So far, the answer has been no. And I do not know if the president will be willing, or not just this president, any president would be willing to expend the amount of resources to open the Strait that would be necessary.
And so the Iranians seem to be telegraphing that they're feeling pretty confident about their control over the Strait, so much so that they're planning on instituting a tolling system that maybe there would be special considerations for favored countries like the Chinese Communist Party. So do you think that's where the Iranians will go, spoil for this fight, try to bait America and the coalition into escalation, and provide special dispensations to America's enemies like the Chinese?
I mean, I think in their dream scenario, that would be the end state. I think their dream scenario would be, hey, America, you guys as end state, your goal was to eliminate our ability to project power outside of our borders. Okay, we got a few less missiles, but guess what? Now we control the Strait of Hormuz, and we're going to let your enemies pass through it, and we're going to make sure your friends can't. I think that is unacceptable to the United States. And I'm going to be frank, there's people a lot smarter than me trying to figure out a way out of this thing. I don't have a magic answer of how we get out of this thing, but I do know that it is unacceptable for Iran to retain control over an international body of water through which massive amounts of economic material that not just the United States but the world is dependent on. And that's unacceptable within this isolated instance, but it's also unacceptable because of the precedent it sets. Let's say we're China. Why can't they apply that logic to the Taiwan Strait or to the Malacca Strait? Start shutting down avenues through sea lanes that the United States has ensured has remained open since the end of World War II, and upon which rests an extreme element of our national power and standing in the world. And if we're to let tiny little Iran hold the Strait of Hormuz, was to stop our major adversaries like China and Russia from doing the same thing. So I think the president is right that is unacceptable to the American interest. And whether he tries to do a face-saving thing where we pretend that that's not the case, but it actually is the case, I'm kind of pessimistic that might be some in the administration's options of, hey, let's just pretend that they don't actually have control over the strait, but let's let them have it.
Cameron McMillan is Senior Research Analyst at the Foundation for the Defense of Democracy Center on Military and Political Power. Cameron, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much. Have a good one.
You too. And he joined us on the alphawealthgroup.com answer line.
Before you see it on TV, share it on Facebook, or read about it in the paper, hear it here first. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Patrick was way behind on his IRS taxes.
I was in way over my head. The total amount ended up being somewhere just over $30,000. $30,000.
Then the IRS came to collect.
Started getting letter after letter. A lien had been filed against me. They were going to basically hang me completely out to dry.
He had to do something.
That's when I reached out to Optima Tax Relief.
Patrick's life quickly got a lot easier.
It was very easy, pretty much hands off. They picked up the ball and ran with it.
And how'd it go?
I couldn't believe it. I had to ask 2 or 3 times. I saved an incredible amount of money.
How does Patrick feel about Optima?
Couldn't be happier. They definitely helped me. Optima Tax Relief, the best place to call. They're the best in the business.
Do what Patrick did and call Optima Tax Relief for a free consultation. Call 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433.
Optima Tax Relief.
Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
AM 560. The Answer.
All right, that concludes another installment of Chicago's Morning Answer. Thanks so much for joining us this morning. Back with more wit and wisdom tomorrow. It's now 9 o'clock on AM 560 WIND Chicago.
Expect more airstrikes in Iran. I'm Chris Foster, Fox News. President Trump says he thinks a